Hi everyone, happy Friday and stuff. So, what am I doing tonight? I'm going to do my sort of comedy special, I Can Walk. Was that the plan? I had put it off like actually like learning the whole piece and then performing it and everything because I was so, upset with all the exploitation and everything, and I was like, well, this is just another one that's just going to add to that cycle of exploitation and abuse and stuff. And well, anyways, part of it was turned into Lords, what was that, and all of that. So, and then I was like, it's a really long piece and stuff. And then the other day, I was like, well, I have two ways to do it now. I found out, for example, if you make videos less than 3 minutes, it gets shared to more users and stuff. I guess it's like a TikTok trend. So I was like, okay, this is going to be so much easier than I thought. I'm just going to break down my whole special into like little 3 minute segments so that I can continue, like, so that I don't have to memorize every single thing and it won't look as messy and it's going to be like less work and I can do it all tonight and that's going to be good. That's going to be great for me, I think. What am I doing now in life? I am in Los Angeles. I'm here because, my life and work for so long with the industry, but also, having experienced so much torture overseas. So I came over here. I don't have a lot of money for stuff, so I survive these days on juicing, as you can see. I drink a lot of Simply Orange, like, I wasn't able to eat much today, but one bottle of Simply Orange has enough sugar to get me through the week. So I think that's pretty useful, right? And then apart from that, yeah, I've just been kind of like trying to sort everything out. And another reason I'm doing this today was because, well, in all sort of what I would say, like in all like regular characteristics of Nick Lovely, right? I once again have sort of fallen for another boy around here, although I've never met him or anything, right? But I do vent to him a lot of the heavy topics that I'm like going through, a lot of the stresses, a lot of the mess of things I experience, and just like kind of like how unfair everything is, and a lot of the really, really difficult stuff. And, even when I say like really bad things to other people and stuff, I'll like tell this person and I'm actually very, very nice the way I talk to that person, even though I don't they've also exploited me in the past, but even though I've never met them or anything. I'm actually just very, very nice to them. And I've never met them, but I do. Anyway, so I send them all these like, these like paragraphs of me like telling them all the really mess of stuff I'm going through. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I should do this comedy special so that this person knows, I'm still super fun to chill with. Yeah. Like, I can still hold a good conversation. Not everything I have to say is about death, torture, abuse, and suffering. I have, funny things, lighthearted things to talk about as well, like, oddly, I can walk, and was that the plan? I'm kind of a little bit of in a bit of a situation now because I was walking and then I got a little bit of my Tinky Winkle a little bit injured, and now I'm not walking so much at the moment, and that was not part of the plan, but I guess it kind of went into the plan. Oh my gosh, that was an awkward kind of like painful laugh, wasn't it? Okay, you guys. So here's my special. I can walk. Was that the plan? Broken up into 3 minute segments. Oh, this one's already 4 minutes. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna break it up into 5 minute segments because I don't think I can say enough within 3 minutes and then like pause or cut myself off and then be like, okay, another 3 minutes and stuff. That seems way too short an amount of time. So, anyways, you guys, I can walk. Was that the plan? Oh my god, it was not the plan to get, obviously my Tinky Winkle a little bit injured, right? But that did happen, obviously sometimes when we're walking long distances over miles and miles and cross continents and many, many things in life over you could say an almost 2 decade journey, literally walking towards my human rights, but everyone else kind of being there and me being like, oh my god, like how, what, where, what direction and everything, you know? In the end of the day, I was doing a podcast episode and I was writing about how they say "let's go" with stuff. Also, it's like, oh, I can walk, at the time regarding that, I was like, well, we all have different kinds of transport, don't we? Right? Like some people have like much faster, methods to walk to get to their destinations. They have cars, they have planes, they have boats, they have things that can like, you know, move very fast. Some of us just have to walk sometimes, right? So different forms of transport. Maybe that's why there's a little bit of a delay in many situations in life. I would say so. Just transportation issues, right? Just a little bit of a situation, a little bit of engine technical troubles with the engine. Flat tires, uh, broken rear view mirror. What else? Like too many flashing lights. I don't even know, like exhaust problems, a lot of exhaust problems. I don't know, like clearly there is the trans. It's really the transport. In the end, I just like if I could put that transport in jail, I would, but I don't know how to define the transport and get my justice against the transport, right? But I would, right? Anyway, in the meanwhile, here's my special for I Can Walk. Was that the plan, you guys? Oh, and I'm also wearing this lovely onesie because I'm not going anywhere. And I was like, well, it's so cute and it's soft, and I can only wear soft clothing right now because of my Tinky Winkle. Anyways, so here's my comedy special, guys. Oh, this is part one, video part one. Hi, okay, you guys, part two. So, just a little bit of background on I Can Walk. Was that the plan? So when I wrote it, I had just come back from traveling in Italy a little bit, in Switzerland, and I'd gone through all these really messed up experiences, and over the last few years. And so I had put this like this piece of like I had put like these experiences into like a sort of like blog of like a document, right? I wrote about them and stuff, right? And I think when I started I Can Walk, I was thinking about it, ever since like 2022 when I first left LA. And actually, like, when I wrote the piece on the thing, it's like, oh, it's been a while since I've returned. And now I'm back in LA, you guys, I'm back in LA. But, when I wrote it, it was like when I left in 2022. And I talked about how, like, walking and running, but really, like, really blown by a gust of wind, if you think about it. It was freaking windy, And I think in the sense at the time when in 2022, when I was still in Los Angeles, at least, there was this sort of like aspect of where like life was kind of messed up in so many ways, but there was a sort of this odd freedom I was slowly feeling, the freedom of like, going to the laundromat, which I know seems like odd freedom, but it kind of is, the freedom of like discovering like, your sandwich from the gas station is expired, I'm like, oh my gosh, but it's kind of like, wow, like, I'm discovering things now, this is great, the freedom of like, just being in the wind, and it was a very, very gusty, windy time. I'm not lying about that. It really, really was. I remember even writing to certain organizations or even talking about it on my social media, being like, like, and trying to be all serious and everything, then looking back at those videos and being like, oh my god, there were leaves in my hair, and being like, oh my gosh, that was a lot of wind, it was very, very windy, and all these like smaller aspects of freedom in a sense where it was like almost like the freedom of like when everything around was so like caught up in this cycle of really messed up stuff, and then there was this sort of like freedom of just sort of like doing like being like sort of like away from that sort of how things were always, like just dragging my suitcase around and things like that at times, like just kind of like the freedom of being in that moment, even if it wasn't as like how people may describe as like what do you call like comfortable as, what like a comfortable lifestyle, it was edging on that discomfortable lifestyle a little bit, but it was the starting points of freedom then, before I left in 2022, which was a huge, huge, huge mistake. It was a huge mistake because if I stayed, I would have been done healing, but also I probably wouldn't have come up with some amazing, amazing artistic things, to be honest. But at the same time, like it was one of those things. Like I Can Walk was at the plan, and it was awful. Really, really was awful because when I did try to walk or whatever, towards what I, at the time, literally within like a few days of leaving the States, I was already um, I don't know what's the best way to put it, but like horrible things had happened. Horrible things had happened where, once I left for a little, and I entered Asia for a little bit, literally within like a few days there, I was like ambushed. It was really messed up. And so back here now, I'm just thinking about like I Can Walk, was that the plan, right? And there were so many aspects of like the oh my gosh, see, I forgot. I just wanted to check again. I should put that paper right beside me. Anyway, so I was like, I was wondering at the time, did I make a bad decision like with my little like walk, right? It wasn't a little walk, it was a large walk. It started with a walk from like literally like escaping my house from those horrible stalker boys, running away from what mid city all the way to like the beach in Santa Monica. That's a that's a long walk. It was quite long, and thank God I didn't have any baggage. I had a lot of emotional baggage, but that's kind of it. And then obviously, eventually afterwards, I stupidly left and everything because I wanted to work properly, and I was going through a situation where everything was just very messed up. And did I make a bad decision? No, I mean like kind of, but not really. It wasn't really. I don't know if you could even say it was my decision at the time. It was the wind. It was just a very gusty time, and there was just way too much freaking wind, you know? And I usually love wind. I really do like wind. I am a fan of, like moving air. I really like the feeling of moving air. I'm just like, oh, moving air. Like, I'm just like a big fan of wind. But it just was way too windy at the time, I guess. And messed with my sort of decision making or whatever you want to call it. And I just thought what I thought was like not a bad decision was actually a very bad decision. And when I left in 2022, and that was regarding a lot of the wind. But what am I going to do at this point? Like, I mean, like, this is the problem. Like, I'm like, I was such a fan of wind, that I just let the wind carry me on, just went with the flow of the wind and things like that. I mean, like, it's so hard not to be a fan of wind, isn't it? Like, who doesn't love moving air? When it's hot, what do you want? Moving air. When it's cold, what do you want? I mean, maybe you don't want moving air, but you still want air, right? I mean, you kind of do want moving air, you just want warmer moving air. So you kind of do, yeah. Like everybody loves moving air. So it's just kind of like, oh my gosh, like what you couldn't like I shouldn't be blamed for what happened in 2022. I was just, like there was too much moving air and there was too much wind, right? Anyway, well, there was lots and lots of things. I use this as my like microphone, as you guys have noticed over the years. But anyway, so that okay. So now I'm gonna get into the freaking like I'm like, oh no, what comes next, right? So yeah, so I went on these experiences and everything within did it pass 3 minutes? Oh my god, 7 minutes. Okay, so end of part 2, part 3 coming up. Okay, part 3. Okay, so you guys, as when I left in 2022, I was navigating the world in a completely different way. Already, my life and work had been exploited for like almost 2 decades in like smaller ways. And I was in this play in London, and they, described the whole thing as like exponential growth, and it did grow in lots of ways. And at the same time, I was very isolated a lot of the time throughout this growth, in many ways. And so I was seeing a lot, but I wasn't seeing like everything, or still haven't, and wasn't seeing as much as other people were at times. So it was a very sort of like navigating the world in this way and not doing what I was doing so much before. I had time a little bit to focus on myself and what I really wanted. And so I think I became quite amazing, to be honest. Like I mean, like, I really like, I wouldn't say you need to suffer or go through pain and suffering to be amazing, but I think it was one of those things where it was like, there were so many moments throughout this sort of I Can Walk phase that were really messed up and really painful that I ended up, I had reached breaking points, in a sense of being like, no, and I mean, like, in a sense of being like this is too much, like, and like the like you know like I can't take this anymore, setting my boundaries and throughout different parts of it, you know which at the end, and throughout a lot of it, like I end up losing a lot of things in life that were I'm going through even more pain and suffering and being tortured in ways that regular people would not be tortured, in regards to many things. And so it was really really tough. But even throughout from the beginning, and to like now, like it's not saying like, I'm gonna be honest, I've always been kind of amazing, but I think the difference is what has happened in life that affects my confidence at times, right? And I think in the past I had been through some similar stuff also, and what had happened was I allowed that fear and oppression to overwhelm me so much. Whereas this time I had had enough. I knew who I was. I was not going to play into any of their messed up gaslighting things again. And so I was ready to stand up. I was ready to be confident the whole time in regards to a lot of the things. Obviously, I'm still a little bit afraid of certain things, right? As anyone should be. It's normal to have fear. If you don't have fear, you could run around and just be some sort of foolish guy, at times. Fear, it can be good sometimes, I mean, like, you see, like, for example, a dog barking at you and its teeth look very sharp and there's, like, blood dripping down. Like, I think it's normal to be afraid and not go towards the dog at the time, right? So anyway, there are some fears that I guess are good and rational in that sense, right? So anyway, it was just one of these things where I started like, put these documents together, like writing everything, and all this kind of stuff, because it was just kind of like I had been keeping a lot of this in for so long, and it was after 2022 where I was like, you know what, all so many methods and systems and people failed me so much that it's like I have to write this all down. I mean, what I knew at the time, most of it, I had to send it out. I had to do this and that, so yeah, right. And still fighting for my rights and justice and all of that. But anyway, so there were many things that happened afterwards, like navigating the world and stuff, and being like, sort of like, I don't know, like it became so normal to me, like seeing something related to like my life and work or whatever, or the double speak or other people involved. It just became so normal to me, in this sense. But normal, but also really annoying towards me, because it was such a violation of my life and aspects of it in a way that was decorating like so much of like the so much around me, and it pissed me off a lot of the time, because while what I would look at and and see all this stuff, like like it pissed me off because I'm the one suffering, I'm the one isolated, I'm the one going through this, I'm the one where there's human rights violations, I'm the one that had to go through all this gaslighting, all this horrible torture and all these things, right? And then at the same time, I'm stuck in this position where it's like this exploitation box where all like there's these constant reminders of people that I don't like or anything or whatever. And it's like everyone else has been able to move on in their life. Everybody else has got to just be a sort of like audience or like participant or something, like or exploiter in this sort of system of things. But they've got to move on in life. They've been able to have relationships, families, jobs, cars, and lots of things, and I haven't been able to anything for like almost 2 decades. Nothing, literally, like almost like been homeless my whole life, only it was just covered under the guise, or you could say, of like what was going on at the time, so that's what my life has been like, so anyway, it was kind of interesting how things have changed, a lot now. And when I was in London and stuff, so in terms of even like forms of ID, yes, I now also legally changed my name, so I'm Nick Lovely now, but forms of ID, right? So it became this weird thing, especially when you're gaslit so much. Your like form of ID, but your best form of ID is literally your Instagram, Literally my Instagram is like how I sort of get around town, or used to get around town in London, And it'd be one of those things, like if people were to gaslight, I just like show my Instagram, like, oh yeah, yeah, you remember that, like all those flashing lights and stuff. Oh, that was interesting, and oh, that time, yeah, flu, and that was right when COVID and stuff. I'm not sick. I never got COVID. Did you? Did you? Did you? Sort of thing. Got and then I'd be like, oh, 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 um look at all these pictures, these selfies of me that have been exploited for all this stuff, and at this, there's like you reach this point of like hugeness with all this stuff, right? And sometimes it's still not enough. It really is still not enough. I'm outside like a club or whatever, and the bouncers still kind of being like, kind of seeming confused, like looking at my Instagram or whatever, or I guess I'm showing it. He's kind of looking confused, and I'm also confused. Like, isn't that enough? Like, these are some very major events over the last few years. Like, should I scroll back? I'm like, like going. Let me like show him something. Like going through my phone, like, where's a picture of Timothy Chalamet dressed up as me or something, right? It's like I've had to like accumulate all this stuff over the years just to be like, see, or whatever. And it becomes like this really stressful thing. How like this form of ID has changed so much. Like, back in the day, you could just like, there'd be like a bar or a club, and you're like, okay, here's my passport, here's my driver's license, whatever. And that was kind of it. Now it's like, oh, here's my passport. Oh, wait, I have to show more, because they're really like, I don't know, like picky about, well, me and like, I don't know. They're picky about people. They're picky about stuff, right? Especially in certain places like the UK, where there's like this history of like elitism and stupid colonialism and stuff, right? So like over there, for example, yeah, like I'm like I'm like spending like person behind me in lines like hurry up or whatever. I'm like, one moment, I need to show him like like the picture outside George Clooney's house. That's really what I was like. I'm like, see, this is Italy. This is outside George Clooney's house. No, I didn't go in. No, I didn't go in. The lights weren't on, but it's okay. I mean, like we were just right there. I didn't want to enter when the lights weren't on, right? Just one of those things. Trying to be a polite, visitor to his house by not entering when the lights weren't on, right? Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of what like it's so that's how my that's how I sort of like verify myself to people nowadays, because it's like a simple identification on your ID is not enough because of, well, you all know, like the many years of double speaking, gaslighting, and exploitation, right? So I have to be like, see, like like showing him my phone with like little like every Instagram post, like, oh wait, like this one, like on this date, go down some more, be like, you seen that movie? That's from this, and oh my God, no, I didn't get anything. Oh no, I don't know, I wasn't paid. No, no, no. I guess it was a nice movie. I no, I don't enjoy the slavery. No, 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 not very much. That's why I need a drink. Can I come in now? Like that's kind of like what it's like outside a bar sometimes. Okay, part 3. I think now on to part 4. Right? Oh wait. Okay. I need to come up with better ways to transition between the parts of my video. Okay. Hi guys. Okay, part 4. So, in regards to this, like showing this extra version of identification known as my Instagram, right? It's also like, yeah, I have to prove that I'm real. I have to be like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, yes, I'm human. Yes, look, this is skin. This is actual skin. Look, it's really stretchy, it's really stretchy, but it's skin, Yeah, there's like flesh inside. Like, if you cut me, I'll probably bleed, Like, I'm just like, as if like I really have to go through this. Like, no, I'm not a vampire or a ghost, No, not an alien either. Like, literally, like, yeah, human. Like I need food and occasionally water to survive. Like I need things in life. Yeah, like not modern slavery, not so cool. Yeah, they ask me about my background a lot. Don't like to talk about it very much. But I do give a little bit of a glimpse sometimes in person, even though people don't ask me. I'm just like, well, I did grow up, for, a lot of years, like, when I was younger, before in Asia and stuff. I'm like, oh, awful, and just trying to like relate to people in all these ways, and I'm like, oh yes, I am British, even though I don't sound it. I know. At the time, this is what I was saying. And then I was even like, for example, like there was just so many aspects to proving that I was like a real person, you know? It was very much like, oh, yeah, I did do that. Yes, yes, I did do that. That was actually me. And they're like, how did you do it? I was like, oh, I don't know, like thinking and doing, just like normal people do with stuff, you know? Like, yeah, I can actually like I do have like normal skills that like I worked on my life and to get better at stuff. Yeah, I can do I can function. Yeah, you know, and I think it's one of those things where it's like almost like just being there, like to like sort of like sort of like what's it called? Not to answer all these questions regarding like people's doubts to whether I'm human or like in all these different ways. Like that's been really really tough, you guys. You know, like I don't even understand why at the same time. Like, what kind of civilization? I mean, like, I know there's a bit of tech now here and there, but apart from that, what kind of civilization do we live at this point that people are literally questioning, like, like all these things about me, which is ridiculous in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, am I an alien? Of course, I'm not an alien. You know, like I'm just so annoyed about that one. That's one of the things I'm most annoyed about. You know, like of course I'm like, you know, I have an alien number because of immigration stuff in the past or whatever, but like as a person, I'm actually like, yeah, I was born on Earth. I lived on Earth, you know. I grew up like in various places on Earth, you know what I mean? And so, oh yeah, so yeah, so basically it's one of those things and I get very, very stressed out about it, you know? I know there's some things that like, you know, they'll ask me about like, you know, if I talk about the modern slavery, they'll look at my bag, they're like, is that Prada? I'm like, yeah, isn't it cute? You know? You know, I mean like there's different levels and aspects to this stuff, you know, people should understand, right? Like what, like about one thing? You know, I have very, very little stuff in general. It's just one cute thing, which was actually the cheapest thing in the store, you know? In case anyone didn't realize. So it's like one of those things, and it's even like, it's like, yeah, I can do cool stuff, you know, and like you know, I know there's some weird things, like yeah, they burnt my penis, but it's all good now. I mean, like it's not good, but it's like it's better. I mean, like the penis is good, but like me and them though, I don't think we're gonna be good for a while. But yeah, my penis did get burnt, you know. But you know, it heals, it heals. Like that's just you know, I just have extra, you know, my that organ of mine just has like it's just very good at healing with the right help to heal. You know what I mean? It doesn't heal on its own just like that. Like obviously I have to take something, but just with the right help after like one of those incidents, what they do to like burn my penis, then yeah, yeah, it does heal. You know, just yeah, like pretty proud of my Twinkie Winky a little bit. You know, like yeah, he's a healer. Or something, you know, like yeah, yeah, you know. Anyway, I shouldn't make jokes about that because I don't want it to happen again. And people outside were like, "Here's something extra in case it happens again." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" And I'm like really like worried about like literally if I go out or anything I would have that is like already opened or anything prior. I'm just like really worried about that, you know. So so anyway, that's like and so yeah, so it's just kind of like I know those are certain things like you know like wow you have like a regenerative penis or whatever, you know. I'm like, well, you know, like you know, it's like what do I say, right? Like that's but that, I am human. I don't know, like that's more of kind of like what do you call it, like it's kind of like when like it gets injured and then it heals and then just gets it's just kind of like a training, you know. My penis had just an awkward training phase, you know. Maybe that's the best way to put it, you know. Just my penis was trained in a different way than everyone else's penis, you know. Most people's penis trained by sex and I never hardly ever hardly have sex ever, you know. So I think that's, I mean, like, you know, most people's penis trains by sex, you know, like that seems actually much more fun, way more fun, and way more healthy, and way more like normal than the training they did to my frickin' penis. Don't you think so? Anyway, um, that's part 4. Okay. Hi, you guys. So I think we're at part 5 or part 6. Part 6. I don't know. Anyways, I can't remember. But anyways, so just so you can tell, I've put my little thing here so I don't have to. Hopefully, if I forget a line or something, forget part of it, I can just glance over instead of like walking off. I can just glance over. And I actually wanted flashcards, but I don't have any, right now. So anyway, these clubs and stuff I've been going to, like, things have changed because even with this ID, even with showing, George Clooney's house or Meryl Streep boogeymanning mouth, or whatever in on my Instagram, it's still not enough sometimes. So what I have to do, with a lot of the stuff, or like even showing, I was talking about other celebrities, but even talking about like, my work and all this stuff and showing that, sometimes they find ways to mess with me. One of those ways is when they really, really pick on me for being single. They'll be like, no single entry. And I'm like, what? No single entry? And they'll look at me as if like being single is like burning their eyes. Or actually, it's the opposite. It's just they don't want to look at me like, he exists. Like, beware the single person or something like that. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I've been single my whole life. This is such a restriction or such a standard, and it's so unfair for me. You know what I mean? Like, literally telling me I've been single my whole life. So to say no single person entry, what am I meant to do? It's like that just it's really it's very perplexing towards me. I mean, I just don't get it at all. Like, I'm just like, but single people are the best people in the club. You don't have to worry about them too much. They, if anything, they buy other people drinks. You know what I mean? Like, you're a single person in a club, you see someone just you want to talk to, you're like, can I buy you a drink? And because it's a club, whether they want to drink or not, most people just kind of get bored at some point and just like, yeah, okay, you can get me a drink, and whether they drink it or not or give it to their friend, it's just kind of like single people will buy drinks for other people. They're there to not be single. Like that's the odd thing. It's like one of those like sort of job interviews where it's like you need 5 years experience, right, to get the job as like an entry thing, and you're just kind of like, what, right? So it's like, for me to be single, I need to get into the to not be single, I need to get into the club, right? But then it's like, to get into the club, you have to not be single. So it's very, very, it's like a paradox, right? So anyway, it's kind of like one of those things, like, yeah, single people, like, yeah, we buy people drinks and stuff like that. We're bringing, like, the economy to your club. What I mean? Like, it's great. I mean, like, it should be like, you're single, welcome in. Like, they should like roll down a little red carpet just because I'm single and entering a club. So it becomes one of those really, really annoying things. Like, oh my gosh, like, who would have ever thought, like, the way they look at me, like when I'm like no single entry and stuff, like they have this like row, this, like, I guess it's called a street. They have like a street and like bars on each side and stuff like that. And you just kind of like looking at all the bars, and some of them, you ask them and they won't let you in because they'll say no single entry. Some will put up an actual sign saying no single entry. And it's like really awkward because it's like you're walking down this like, street of bars or whatever, it's like they're all looking at me as if I have like the plague or something just for being single. Like, who would have known that like being single would have been like, has become like social leprosy? Do you know what I mean? It literally is like that. It's like I'm walking around like feeling so ostracized at this point, and everyone's just kind of like like in line or whatever, and they're all not single and everything, and you're just like so isolated, and just kind of like I don't know, like, sneering at me and like, drinking their drinks and their, their evil eyes and all of this stuff. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like being single is like the hardest thing I've had to do in my life, but it's all I've had to do in my life, really. It's all I've been able, to do, right? To be single, right? But it's like, oh gosh, I didn't think I'd feel so bad about it at times, because I used to like really enjoy these really empowering songs, like Beyonce, like, if you like that, you should have put a ring on it and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, like, nowadays when I go out in London, or when I used to go out in London, whatever, a little bit, and to be sort of like rejected so much in this way from like the single entry aspect of things, and in regards to stuff, I'm like looking at that song completely differently in a way nowadays. It's like doesn't feel so empowering as it used to be. It's like, oh my god, maybe someone just needs, maybe someone could put a ring on it, sort of thing. Like, it's come on, guys, it's been quite a while now. Like like the single stuff was just hasn't quite like worked out with that empowering aspect of things that it should have. You just kind of feel like, okay, like, if you liked it, you should have put a ring on it. But then as you reach a point like at the age of 39, and you're like kind of like, oh my god, like I just need like entry now. Like, give me the ring of entry. Like, who has this ring of entry? That I need. Anyway, that's what it's like being single for me sometimes, and it's really messed up because I know most people that are single, they go out dating, they go meet other people, they're with their friends or whatever, and then they explore like single life in terms of like, um, just complications in life, things at like home, just kind of like single life where in terms of like, oh, like their friends are getting married, or this person's busy because they have a boyfriend or whatever. And it's a different kind of single life than I have. My single life has just been an extra part of the isolation and everything that I've been through for so long, right? And now my single life has become a method of literal like discrimination towards me, like on a whole freaking street. And it's just one of those things. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, you know what I mean? Like, don't people see the benefits of having a single person like me in the club? You know what I mean? I don't see how that's not, how that can be not beneficial, in so many ways. Like, everyone that's like in a relationship or as a non-single person that goes in or whatever, that they're going to be, they're just going to like they're not gonna like, they don't have, for them it's just a regular night or whatever. For them it's just a night to be with their friends and then go home and stuff. But for us single people, to get into the club or whatever, that could be a night of monumental change. That could be the night someone takes their first steps on my moon, you know? In a sense, right? So to be a single person entering a club, it is a huge, huge step, you know? It is a step, it's literally like the step for mankind at times. So I just don't get why they make those rules. Like, social leprosy is not cool, you guys. Social leprosy, like, even if there's nothing going on, I'm like, oh my god, like I'm just like, you get like this, like, I wouldn't say like psychological, but you're like, oh my gosh, like you just start feeling itchy. I'm just like, I just feel itchy by their sort of like they're sort of like single person social leprosizing me sort of thing. I'm like, they're social leprosizing me. I wish I could tell someone that, like, they're social leprosizing me. And here, actually, one of the doctors I wanted to talk to make an appointment to see a counselor, because I've been reaching out to the crisis hotline a few times. So I was talking to the doctor, and he's like, you need a reason to see the counselor. And I was like, okay. And he's like, that reason has to be like under 5 words. So first he put like, social persecution. I was like, no, that's not what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with human rights violations, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I was like, I was really into it. He's like, okay, fine. And he's like, um, he's like, fine then. And then he was like, summarize it in 3 or 4 words. And then I was like, I feel hopeless. I feel hopeless. And then he's like, okay, I guess we can make an appointment for you and the counselor now or something, right? And I was like, good. I hope this is a good counselor, because, I've always complained while this is going on, the lack of healthcare. I mean, the lack of, especially healthcare when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, I met with like many sort of different types of counselors and everything, and it's just kind of like, it's very hard sometimes, because you really have to find the right person that you can trust who is there. And so many people are part of this really abusive system in regards to things, right? So it is really, really tough. And I've always been someone who's like, since even the huge cumulative gaslighting began on my life, in 2008. Like, I remember even very young, I wanted to see, like, I was like, oh, I'm going through this stuff. Let me see the right professional at that age. And I wasn't even allowed to. I wasn't even allowed to. And also at the time, I didn't know how to vocalize a lot of the stuff. And the gaslighting made it very, very, very difficult, you know? So that's another thing, you know. So it's hard to find the right healthcare professional with this stuff, you know. What was I meant to tell him? Like, you know, like social leprosy, you know. It's not that's not why I need to see a counselor. I'm seeing a counselor for my freaking human rights violations and all this messed up stuff that's going on, you know. Just social leprosy is a little bit of a side effect, you know. It's a little bit of like a little bit of a virus that's like been added there, right? You know, it's like a little bit of this like test tube lab stuff, whatever, this little petri dish or whatever, and social leprosy was just a little bit thrown in there that sort of popped up, right? Right? You know, and there are many other aspects of things regarding stuff, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyway, regarding this single entry stuff, I'm like, you know, how like it's so strange how life has changed, because remember when we were younger, everyone would love single people in the club. You know, how many clubs have you been to and like they'd be like, oh, single girls, like get in, get in, get in. And I know I'm not a girl or like, you know, a female, you know, and but you know, I'm real now. I mean, I've always been real, but I'm real. You know what I mean? Like, I get to the club and I'm like, guys, like, I'm not just a boy. I'm like a man. You know, like I'm like a person. You know, you know, see, I have the proof on my Instagram, you know, like and stuff. But but yeah, like nowadays they're not like I don't know why it's just regarding a single person, you know, like even as a guy, right? Even as a guy, right? I remember like when you're younger, like groups of guys are worse than a single guy, because groups of guys get into like what I would call like you know, do you know how like women sort of like when they're on their period, they sort of synchronize a little bit when they're living together and stuff? Well, groups of guys have sort of like contagious testosterone sort of stuff, you know? When one guy gets into a fight or something, like their aggression like sort of spreads between all of them like some sort of like I don't know, like shared like testosterone like spirit going through all of them, you know? It's really strange in that way, you know, like you know, so groups of guys are way more risky than like a single gay guy like me. For sure. You know what I mean? Firstly, I'm not there to steal any of the women from any of the potential guys or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm not there to bother their most, you know, their most you know, most clubs, like to be honest, in most clubs, like the clientele they prefer the most are women, right? But yeah, I'm not there to like steal bother or anything with the women. In fact, you know, my dancing will probably keep women dancing there with me for a while longer. You know, I'm actually literally like a piece of like could be seen as like a piece of club entertainment. You know what I mean? Like I like me being there keeps the dance floor. At least there's someone on the dance floor at all times that can dance, and that's me. You know what I mean? So I'm like, this is not like they should be nicer about it all, right? You know, I don't know why they're so mean regarding that. You know, it's just one of those things, like single person entry. You know, it's like, and it's almost as if like people are dumbfounded by the idea that I'm single, or the idea of just being maybe so single, right? I mean, that's the difference, being so single. But people are so dumbfounded by it sometimes, I think, because just the way their expressions are and just how callous they can be about it, you know, just kind of just, um, I didn't think I'd be 39 and experience something that I thought maybe I'd have to experience in my 20s. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think I'd be 39 and, well, there's lots of things I didn't think I'd have to go through at this age. But, you know, like, I didn't think I'd be 39 and, like, be like, oh my, like, be worried that the pressure of being single was not just like a sort of like a really old fashioned peer pressure, whatever sort of thing, but it was actually become a pressure to like literally if I want to just go out and meet people. Like I can't undo the singleness by being single. Isn't that so messed up? You know what I mean? Like that's so messed up, right? Anyway, as you can see, I have my my little like stage juice. You know, 1 week's worth of sugar, right? So hopefully, like this will, yeah, is great, you know? It's only got 110 calories, weighs just as much as me, actually, you know? Okay, so, oh my gosh. Okay, so that was part um, 6. And I just want to reiterate regarding the whole single stuff. It's like, we are not like being single at this age or whatever, like, like it's not like some sort of mythical creature. I'm not the abominable snowman just because I'm single. It's not like they have to look at me as if like, oh my God, he exists, the single man, Like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Like it's, oh, I just never thought like all the different social leprosy aspects of being single would like, like like I'd have to deal with that at a certain point in life. It just I always thought for a long time people just kind of was like under like we're just like kind of like like I just didn't I thought it was just kind of like they were just. I thought it was very much a thing that was never going to affect me in regards to like being single. I really did not think that was going to be something I was going to be judged on so much. In such a very in such an identifying way, such a way where you're just kind of they're like, oh my God, single man, heathen. Like oh, like like as if I should be like, as if something awful should happen. Like, like did I break a rule by not like, like using my Twinkie Winky enough? Like oh my gosh, Okay, you guys, part 7. So sometimes in these clubs, they say, "Oh no, a single person, no single people." I know it's an excuse, but they say, "Oh, just safety." I'm like, "Safety? Are you serious right now?" I'm like, "This is my WGA card. This means I know safety because I know rules. And." I don't write the rules, but but I'm like, yes, like I've spent how long at my desk, I definitely know safety. And you don't have to be worried about others. If I've been single my whole life, there pretty much is not going to be much chance of me actually, despite how much I want, despite how like the night probably goes, there's probably not going to be much chance that I'm going to leave this club not single, It's been my whole life being single, I'm pretty sure that you don't have to worry about that. And then other things regarding safety, and they're like, well, what if you fall down? I was like, what if I fall down? Listen, look at this, or this. I'm like, this, I don't have much on me. I'm like, this, I got a scar down here. I fell down once, and what happened? I got back up. I got another bruise over here. I fell down once. What happened? I got back up. I can fall down and get back up. So you don't have to worry about in case what happens if I fall or slip or anything because I can literally stand up again. Like I have the scars and bruises and injuries and all of that to show that even if I fall, I can still get back up. So I tried to like explain all this stuff regarding the singles, stuff to get into the club, and once in a while, like you do get in. So there's like this one place I did get into, for example, and I'm like standing behind like the EDM like DJ or whatever, and he starts playing the song and it goes balls, 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 and I'm like, oh my gosh, like how much more gay promotion do I need to not be single anymore, right? So I'm like even like walking up to people, I'm like, you guys, the song, and like balls, that's because of me, balls, guys, like it's just kind of like it's so weird to be like in this like club where it's like very very late at night, people are I don't know if they're drunk or whatever, I don't know them, and they're all like into like this very like heavy like electro kind of trance music, and it's going balls, 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 and I'm like, guys, my balls, like and stuff like that, It's not like it's made a difference to my single life or anything, right? But anyway, so I've been single forever, so I've been quite independent, usually with a lot of things I've done. Even traveling, I've traveled alone, literally. my whole adulthood, except for some time in like my late 20s, where I made a friend for a period of time and we traveled to a few places together. But apart from that, like I've traveled alone my whole adulthood and stuff. And so this time, I had gone to prior to writing I Can Walk was at the plan. I had gone to Italy and Switzerland for actually no, I only went to Italy. I went to Switzerland for a day, like on like a day trip, but I was in Italy most of the time. So I go to Italy and I'm going to learn. I go to learn how to what's it called? How to ski. Ironically, because I was talking about the EDM regarding balls. This place is called Balls. I don't know. Also, anyway, but there was no EDM going balls around there, anyways. So, um, but I just remember all that stuff, and so I was just kind of like, okay, so I'm like learning. I was like, let me just take like one lesson at first, because I've never done it before. I'm very nervous, and I'm quite late to the ski game. When I'm on the ski lift and everything, it's like all these people are like, some of them are very very young. They're like little kids. They're like, I guess, like 3, 4, 5 years old, and some of them are quite old, and they're seniors and everything, and they're all very very good, it seems, at skiing and everything. And um so basically, like, I make my lesson plans, and then they're like, hey, go up the ski lift and go there, and your instructor's going to wait for you there. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I like grab, I get all the equipment and everything, and I'm just like, like going to ski for the first time. I got this outfit, you know as to put whatever. Anyways, it's going to ski for the first time, and everything. And I get out of the, what's it called, the ski lift once it reaches the top, right? And all these people, like these like little kids to like whoever else, like just get their skis on, and they just like go zoom and like off, like just go off, like off some sort of like, I would say like a cliff, or just the like whatever, just you can't see what goes. They go like down or whatever. It's like the slope. They just go, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like these guys are like lemmings at that point. They're just one by one going shoot 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 like off this like cliff or whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I really really wanted to lemming, but I don't know how to ski at this point. And I'm terrified and everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're all so amazing. Look at them all lemming in this way. So I, on the other hand, just am like, where are the stairs? So I'm like looking for the stairs in this like, masterclass ski resort or whatever. And finally I find them, and I'm like kind of embarrassed because no one from the ski lift is taking the stairs. Not one person is. They're all literally skiing off the ski lift down like some really steep slope and stuff. So I'm like carrying my skis and everything, like going on the ski lift, going down the stairs, like like people are like watching me. I'm like just being like, oh, just needed like a drink, like trying to make excuses as if they really care or not. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I just need to use the bathroom, first, or before I get down, skiing and everything, right? So I get there, and then I get to like the little like ski like office where the instructors and all are. And then, as has been told in the history of like ski instructors, like what they say regarding ski instructors, that they are hot. Yes, that is very true. I somehow ended up with this like very 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 attractive ski instructor, um and I was like, oh my gosh, and like it wasn't distracting or anything, but I was like, oh, like, this, I was just kind of like having a really bad day, and was kind of nervous about this, and kind of like a bit scared about the lemmings and things like that, and here you are, I was thinking, like Mr. Ski Instructor, like, getting ready to help me ski, and hopefully lemming one day or whatever. Anyway, so he's like teaching me how to ski and everything, and like it's like South Park, when they take pizza or whatever. It really is like that, and kind of going through like just a sort of beginner sort of like learning area, nothing like as intense as what all those people were doing or anything. Now I can do something a little, I can do better. You know what I mean? But at that first moment, I was very, very, it was my first time even ever like just being on a pair of skis, so I couldn't do much. And it was really interesting because whenever he'd like try to like get me to like be in the right like what's it called, like form, in regards to like when I'm going down and everything and the right positioning and everything. He'd be like, snowplow, snowplow. And I'd be like, oh my God, into you? Like, it was kind of weird, But then he'd be like going backwards as I was like going forward. He'd be like, snowplow, snowplow. And I was like, I am trying to snow freaking plow, like, you know? But I'd be like, I'm like skiing as well. So it was like this really awkward snowplow. I'm like, does this look like a hot snowplow, you guys, whatever, But it was like, anyway, it was a really cool instructor, and I remember at one point my nose was leaking or whatever, and he gave me some tissue, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I was like so like enamored by this like Italian vacation with this like hot like what's it called bald, like he wasn't bald, but it was this hot like whatever Italian like like ski instructor or whatever, but I think he wasn't Italian. I think he was like from some other European country. So he gives me a tissue or whatever, and I like wipe my nose, and I'm like, here, do you want it back? And he's like, no, thanks. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I'll save you for later, sort of thing, I was like such a geeky, like sort of. I wasn't like that the whole time. It was just kind of like I was just whatever, just get over it, But it was just an interesting experience for me at the time, just like just like almost as if like going through like all this struggle and everything, even getting the skis and everything, doing everything on my own, and then getting there, and then it's like I was like, oh my God, am I going to die on this slope? What's gonna happen? I have never done this before. And then it's like this beautiful person like in front of me being like, like I am going to teach you to snowplow, and I was like, oh my God, like. So anyway, we finished, did a little bit of a, beginners like a few hours of skiing. I remember there was this one point, it was on like the ski lift, like not like the bigger ski lift, but like the little elevators they have to take you from like sort of a lower part of the slope to another part of the slope, but very short, very short. You're on it on your skis. And so you're there, I'm just there waiting, and one guy fell off it. It's like you're just like in this like moving walkway, and this guy falls off, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I didn't know what to do. I'm like trying to get like my instructor. I'm like, oh my God, the lemming fell off. The lemming fell off. Code one, lemming is on the side. Lemming is like is a bit like disoriented or something. There's something up with that lemming, and luckily literally like I was like, oh my God, we're going to crash into the lemming right now. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, the instructor was like, look, will you hold my hand if we crash into the lemming? And I didn't say that, but I was like kind of like really worried because ski accidents can be quite bad if they happen and stuff like that, right? So but luckily right before like as the walkway, like as we're going, the guy like managed to get his skis off and put it on the snow because he was half on, half off. And so we like passed, and like luckily there was no major lemming damage at that point, So yeah, but I never got the chance to lemming, to be honest. I really wanted to lemming, I really wanted to like, go whoosh down the mountain and everything, I didn't then, but I did at another place later on I didn't write in this much later, when I learned how to ski a little bit better. And I didn't lemming per se, because I did try it once. Like I remember like when I learned to ski better many months later, I had gone down the slope and everything, but I had been going down alone the whole time. Then this time I go down, and all the lemmings come behind me, and they just come down. I'm like, oh my God, oh my gosh. Like, I can't, like, freaking out that I'm going to bump into someone, because these were all, like, professionals. And I'm just like, I just learned how to make a left turn, you guys. Like, and they're all, like, professional skiers. They know how to, like, go left, right, this, that, up, down, jump, this, And I'm just like, oh my God, like, I'm just like, this is my, I'm like, left turn, right turn, and everything. And anyway, at that time, that's when all the lemmings came, and it was quite overwhelming being around a lot of ski lemmings. Like if you are on a ski slope and you're like look like if you're in like one mountain, you see ahead and you see the other skiers come down, it's really like you see all like lemmings travel in like in groups, they do. Lemmings aren't just like individual whatever. They're just like it's like a pack of lemmings that come at you, and you're like, oh my gosh, and I at that moment, actually, at that time when I was skiing and all the lemmings came that first time, there was one point where I did fall a little bit, I did, because I think it was going so steep, the slope at the time. It was my first time going down a really, really steep slope, and I got better with it because I learned how afterwards. and I was like, oh my gosh, and like the lemmings were coming in all directions, and so I did fall down once, regarding that. But like I said, which I told the bouncers at the club, well, not about that incident, but told them I can do that. That if I fall down, I can get back up. So that was my like part of my experience skiing and everything in Bolzano, right? And I think there's like so many aspects about like, okay, this is part 7. Hi. Okay. So part 8, maybe. Okay. So skiing was one of those things where it was like, I didn't have all the equipment to do it well. Also, like my socks got wet. It got very, very cold, because, I was wearing hot boots. I wasn't wearing actual like proper ski boots, and stuff like that. I was wearing like cool fashion boots or whatever. But apart from that, it was one of the best experiences I had in my life, literally just learning how to ski, being, in the mountains and everything. And, you can tell about a lot about a person's trauma in life from how they react to snow. You know, most of everything I had been through, like in my life, but also like after 2022, a lot that I experienced was very traumatic and very, very negative and really, really tough to get through. So it was actually really, really nice being in this like place with a lot of snow. Like it was a new experience for me. Like I have been around snow. I went to school in Boston, but like skiing was a new experience for me. And in regards to a lot of the stuff, like I remember like the one thing is like like I said, you can tell when someone's been through trauma when how they react to snow. You know what I mean? Like you like for me at least, like there's like one snowflake and you like hold on to it like like it's the most miraculous thing in the world. You're like, oh my god, and like it's as if like nothing matters anymore or like whatever. It's just like it's just you and the snow and you're just like this is the most magical amazing thing in my life. You just you're like doing snow angels or whatever. You're like I'm by myself, so I'm just like picking it up and not really throwing it and just putting it down and things like that. I'm like, ooh, snow. But it's like it's just one of those things, and it's just kind of like when like there's like so much trauma and everything I've been through, and just like being in this snowy climate, I'm like, wow, just like so fascinated with frozen water. I'm like, oh my god, like frozen water. Like, where have you been my whole life? And it was just one of those things, and it was just kind of like I really enjoy being here in the snowy climate. And it's you can tell I've been through so much trauma, because it's like the best vacation of my life was literally being on this like snowy empty field where I literally could have frozen to death or died or been left or whatever. It's like that was the best one of the best experiences of my life. Obviously nothing bad happened, but like just being around all this snow just because of how much at the time I wanted to be away from like a lot of the world and a lot of people and a lot of things. To be honest, I'd been through so much, and I just didn't want it any. I just wanted to like find a place where I could find a little bit of peace and things at the time. And it wasn't even like, oh, like that's how I know like I've been through so much, because I'm like the best vacation wasn't with people at the time. It was literally being on a snowy field where I was pretty much could have died, could have frozen to death. No one would have even known of what you know what I mean. And that was like more like I don't know. It just was one of those vacations I really enjoyed at the time. To be honest, just traveling alone, seeing places that were different, and there was really good food as well that I can't afford or anything now. But at the time, just certain restaurants were just very unique. The food, very, very. They always said they'd get the ingredients from different mountains and stuff, and I'm always like, where? Like, like I don't see people like on the mountains like plucking like what's it called, like bits from the bushes and being like, oh, we have some like really rare thyme here, and we have some like really like getting like rare herbs or whatever. I'm like, where are these like secret herb gardens that you're saying we just get them around the corner, you know, in the nature, and it's like the most rarest, freshest herbs like in their cooking or whatever, and you're like, okay, and I was like trying to find that. I was like, where is the garden of, like, what's it called? Like, where is the garden of fancy herbs, you guys? I'm trying to find the European garden of fancy herbs that's free on the mountains so I can take some of my own. But no, I did not find any of that stuff. Instead, it was just kind of like one of those experiences where it's even like, what was I angry about so much, at the time? It's even like, well, there was no one for me to call or say, be like, hey, I'm here, or anything like that, really, actually. So sometimes I just talked about it on my Instagram a little bit, but it's kind of like one of those things like, yeah, this vacation was good because I didn't have a problem with the snow. They talk about that song, like, the cold never bothered me anyway. I don't have a problem with the snow. I have a problem with all the damn bitches gaslighting, exploiting, and ruining my life for so long. Those are the people I have a problem with, not the freaking frozen water. Like, that's how I felt, a lot of the time about things, right? I mean, like, I'm just talking about the mountain. I'm talking about the mountain. I'm not talking about things in the past, right? I'm just talking about the mountain. So anyway, in regards to that, it was just like one of those things where it was like, yeah, like, it was just it. I think it's like you become so I felt so isolated myself internally because of so much already going on that it felt like being in a situation that, like, that sort of like understood me, like the environment understood me, in that sense, like in regards to the snow, right? In regards to being this, being left like so much like in all the different ways, things that I've been hurt and stuff. And it was just kind of like being in a place that was just it was very picturesque. They had these tall trees that were like large Christmas trees, but they were like 100 feet tall, or maybe not 100 feet tall, like 50 feet tall, like really, really tall Christmas trees, like as tall as the palm trees you have here in LA, but Christmas trees. I was like, oh my gosh, like, who's taking that one home for like this December and things like that, right? Um, so that was like, it was just a really picturesque place that was really rare for me to ever like see in life and things like that. But that was the thing about like the snow and everything, and it was just kind of like, but for me it was like, why was I there? Because they kept me in the closet for so long. I freaking ended up in Narnia. That's what it was. Really, that's what it was. They traumatized me. They wouldn't let me be in the sun. They did all this stuff to me. They tortured me, and then also, to talk about exploitation, doublespeak, everything, being kept in like a literal closet my whole life. Obviously I was like, whatever, and just ended up in freaking Narnia. Fell through that little portal and stuff, and I'm like, whoosh, learning to snowplow. Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever see that guy again who, see him one day, my ex ski instructor, and be like, hey, like, I can snowplow a little better now. I can snowplow a little faster now. I can snowplow to the left. I can snowplow to the right. I can snowplow to the left. I can snowplow to the right. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so that's part 8. Hi, you guys. So I never thought the best part of I Can Walk, would be, at the time, was like, there wasn't a lot of best parts, but like, this was one of the best parts, where it was literally on this empty snowfield, literally could not even see into the distance, nothing around, completely deserted, no one, just like some like really tall, snowy trees, and it was just one of those things. It was just kind of like one of the most, even my phone died at one point. That was the scary part, actually. When my phone died, I was like, oh my god, I can't. I was really scared about, like, literally, of something happening, because I'm like in the middle of this like snowy mountain and nothing. All I have at that moment is this like there's like the horse that was like guiding the little, like, whatever, like the tourist, like, carriage thingy and stuff like that, right? So that was the only thing that was like, I was like, oh my god, horse, like, please, like, no, I guess there was a guide as well, but it was like, I didn't know him or anything. I was so nervous and everything. I was like, please just make it back. Just make it back, because when my phone died and everything and stuff like that. So it was like one of those things where it was like, And then in regards to the snow stuff, like even getting ski gear is so cool. Like this is kind of like a fun ski gear thing, you know. I'm not a pro skier, you know, so I ended up just getting just like one or two outfits like this, you know. And people ask me sometimes, like, oh, like I think there's like, you know, when you talk about ski conversation, like what color slope you go down, you know, in terms of like skill level, and there's many things about ski conversation, but I remember getting back afterwards, and you know, I don't really properly. I had not learned how to ski yet properly, even though, like you know, regarding that, you know, like even that instructor at the time. This is much. This is you know in January, whatever. Like you know, as he'd be like snowplow, I'd be like I'm coming, you know, and I'd never get there, right, you know. Um, so like in regards to skiing, like the cute clothes, and everyone's like, "Oh, you went skiing?" And I was like, oh, "I just après ski," you know. That's one of my favorite things. It's like, "Oh, I love to après ski." Like, yeah, you guys, I'm just here for the après ski, you know. You know, that's actually like the part of skiing where you just go drinking and chill and things like that, which I did not actually do much of, to be honest. Like only like one night or something. You know, actually most of the time I did not après ski. I was very you know, contemplative in my room, or you know, I'd go out for dinner and have drinks, but I wouldn't like party. Like once I did, but like I didn't really party very much, you know. But it's nice to say because it depends on the resort you go to. Some resorts are very après ski like, you know, and some aren't. You know, some aren't. You know, so where I went, a lot of the time I would look for places that were actually quite quiet because I was just dealing with so much. I just wanted. I was trying to find some peace and stuff and like that in life. You know. Um, but yeah, people always ask, like, oh, you ski? I'm like, oh, when you're going shopping for ski outfits, you know? They're like, oh, you're going skiing? I'm like, oh, this is for the après ski, you know? Like, you know, kind of thing like that, right? And then my snow, like, but some people have really cool outfits. Like my ski instructor had this bright red outfit actually at the time, you know? I wasn't wearing, what was that? He was like very like, they wear bright outfits at times, you know? And I think part of it, for example, is to like, show that they're on the mountain so that like in case something goes wrong it's like you can identify a person on like the snow and everything like that. And like snow gear is like the best winter gear, you guys, it really is. Because like when you're you know you like look so professional on like a slope, you know, you've got like you know the zip up thing, you've got like I didn't really have proper sunglasses, but you have that, you know, you've got the skis and everything. And it looks like skiing is one of those things because you can wear fur or whatever at times. You like go skiing, you like you know toss off your skis, you get on a motorbike, you get back to like some sort of place, you like what's it called? Enter a cocktail party. You know, it's like skiing is one of those things where it's like you can transition into literally any other activity of the day, and it's like so like it flows so well. You know, you can transition into any activity of the day, and it's like so like it just it blends so well. You're like, I was just skiing and now I'm in a hot tub drinking whatever, like champagne, or I'm you know, drinking like alcohol or whatever, like whatever you want, you know, like the way you just kind of like skiing is one of those things where it's just kind of like even the outfit, like look at this outfit, you know, just go like this, like this, like this, like this, like it is a fast changing outfit, you know, it is a slick, you know, like slick, you know, in and out outfit, you know. You can come into that ski outfit and come out of it. You can go onto the slope, end up in the bar, end up in the hot tub, end up on the motorbike, end up here, maybe a helicopter, who knows what, you know? But it's all just a part of the skiing thing, you know? It's a fast-paced sport. It's like just how it is. Like skiing, go, let's go, après ski, yay, drink, done, right? So it's very interesting that skiing is kind of like that, you know, in that sense, right? So anyway, I know I'm cheating a little bit, right? So I spent so much time in London, really suffering a lot, really suffering in so many ways that whether people know how much they know and everything, some ways, well, they do know, but in some ways are, I don't know. It's been so traumatizing to the point, like, and I didn't think because it's like in my life, it's like I've never even had like a safe time in my life where I've had my rights and stuff to properly heal. You know what I mean? It's always been a cumulative, almost 2 decades of traumatic stuff in my life, you know? Horror and all this stuff, right? Which is really messed up at many times, right? So basically, um, so yeah, and I didn't. What's it called, right? What's it called? I've always been single person entry my whole life. I've never not been single person entry, apart from like maybe in my 20s and there were people around. So obviously you enter with people or something, but like in most, like, yeah, I've been a single person my whole life. And the weird thing about that, I would have to say, like even in London, I didn't make like one friend or anything at all. Uh, yeah, no one or anything. So, but even for example, like the idea, like, because I've been so independent, the thought of needing someone to go out, like, I've never needed that, and I don't like needing that, but I kind of wish I had that a little bit, right? So the thought of needing someone to go out has never been something I'm like, oh, I need someone to go out. It's just kind of like, I'm just gonna go, whatever. um but it's so weird because it's like people obviously, like for someone like me, like, I don't need anyone to go out, but usually around 2 a.m. I want someone to um like come back with. You know what I mean? Like, don't need anyone to go out, but usually around like 2 a.m. I want someone to go home with. That's what I mean. And it's one of those things, you're like in the club and everyone's kind of drunk, right? And that's the worst time to need someone to go home with, because you're drunk. Everyone's faces are like pixelated at that point. You know what I mean? And you're just kind of like, I don't, a few times there've been small crowds, but you're just kind of like, you're reaching your hand out, like touching someone's face. They're like, "That's my nose," and you're like, "Great, let's get a cab." you know. Um, so that's like actually the worst time to like need someone, to like when you're leaving the club, right? That's when you actually like don't. I mean, like, you don't want to always. I mean, like, it's actually kind of safe, right? You want a company to help you get home sometimes because it's late night and everything, right? But if you're just taking a cab in general, right? But you're also just kind of like, you're single person. I'm like, like, maybe if you come with me, even though I can't tell what you look like, maybe if you come with me tomorrow, I won't be single. Like, maybe if you come with me today, maybe tomorrow, who knows, right? You know what I mean? Just taking that chance, right? Like, but it's the worst time because, as I said, people are all pixelated, and they're not pixelated, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of like everyone's a bit drunk or whatever, right? I mean, I never actually go home with anyone or anything, but it's just one of those things regarding single person, like, entry and stuff, right? It's just kind of like, some of us people, like myself, like, we pride ourselves in our independence, our empowerment, our, like, all these things about, regarding literally like independence, being like, able to do things on my own, being proud of my singleness. And literally, like, at the end of the night, at the end of the night, after a club night or something like that, it's like all of that sort of just becomes like it's not like it just goes out the window, but it's like one of those things, like, all of that, you're just kind of like, oh my god, like, who's gonna, like, not let me go home single tonight, and you're just kind of like, I don't know you, everyone, or anything, but at least you're like, your face doesn't feel like it has like a lot of pimples or anything or something, like, you're just kind of like, don't want to be single, at like 2 a.m., but like, what, 9 p.m., you're like, bitches, most single person around, fucking rocking single shit. You know what I mean? Don't mess with me. I'm freaking single. 2 a.m. You're like, please do not let me be single for any longer. No, you're not really like that. I'm not really like that. But it's, you know what I mean? But you're just a bit more like, oh my gosh, like, single at 2 a.m. is not the best. A single at 2 a.m. You're like, oh my gosh, like, I just like, let's you're like, who wants some, you're like, who wants what, like, who wants to chill, who wants to chill at 2 a.m., you guys, who wants to chill, who can pay for the Uber and chill, I think that's part of it, right? Okay. So while I can walk, I've been moving into different apartments here and there and stuff, and I didn't realize how much hair I shed. I know that sounds terrible, but it's like I started to feel bad about it because, as I would clean up things, like, clean up spaces, as like, I was moving out from one apartment to another, was cleaning stuff up on my own, and the places where you find hair where you shed is very surprising, especially if you shed a lot. Yeah, I have pretty hairy legs, but apart from that, like I didn't realize how much hair I shed. I was like, wow, like it was enough hair to like literally have make my own Build-A-Bear. When I finished, what's it called, cleaning up and stuff. But it was like a lot and a lot of hair. And I was like, oh, this is a lot. And the places where I would find the hair, obviously normal spaces, like the bathroom and everything. But sometimes in really odd places, like you're looking like, like behind the couch or on the side, or, like you're like, like really odd spaces, like, like on the, like a shelf in the refrigerator. You're like, oh, how did that, what, like, or even like under the little, like, I wouldn't say staircase, but little like awning sort of stair thing, whatever, like where there's like where you've never even entered before, like places that you've never even ventured in before. Something like hair has a way of just like flying to those places, like every single corner of the house, you know, you never expected. You're like, oh, another hairball, and just like, oh my gosh, there's so much hair, and it's just like, oh, I just wish I was one of those people that did not shed so much. Like how much in my life I just wish I did not have so much hair all around me, on my body and everything, you know. But I've just always been a very hairy person, right? And I feel kind of bad about it because, like, once, for example, I got, when you're leaving apartments, they wanted like a special like end of lease clean. So I got someone to help out with stuff. Well, I had to, pay for like professional cleaning at the time. And, I felt really bad because she's like cleaning everything. And I felt like she was like swimming in hair, And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about the hair. And she's like, oh, it's fine. And I'm like reaching over her ear and be like, I'm sorry about this strand over here. And like, dusting her shoulders. I'm sorry, there's more hair on here, and everything. And she just seems to be like just kind of like, oh my gosh, like just going with it, kind of like whatever. But there was a lot and a lot of hair, and it's like, oh, like it is kind of embarrassing when you have so much hair, It's like one of those things, like, in civilization, like we sort of like minimize in our on our bodies a lot. You know what I mean? Like people like wax their armpits and even their body hair and things like that, So it is embarrassing to be so freaking hairy, And I'm not even as hairy as other people. I've seen people way hairier than me. My upper body's not super hairy, but the rest of it is. And it's just kind of like it's just such an odd thing to apologize for, because it's like, I'm so sorry that my hair just like shed. You know what I mean? It's like, like it's as if like some of us, like it's just walking, it's like people don't see, but just like walking, like, I could be like, like hair could be trailing off my arms and legs just as I'm walking, there's a whole trail of hair now, you know what I mean? Just simple walking and there's like a whole trail of hair there, you know what I mean? Some of us just like drip hair. I'm literally dripping hair, like it's just how my body and my system works, it's just the type, it's just my part of my genes and everything like that, I'm just a hair dripper, right? So it's just like one of those things where it's something I didn't realize I had to apologize so much for until I physically saw all the hair, I physically saw the hair cleaning up my apartment, and then I'm just like, oh my god, I'm so sorry about that hair. Like, oh, like, like it's just kind of like, don't worry, I have to reassure them, like, that's definitely head hair. That's definitely head hair. Yeah, that's not pubic hair. No, no, no. No, there's no pubic hair around here. Even though you're like, oh my god, that's a huge spot of somehow pubic hair. But you're just like, no, there's no pubic hair or anything. It's all just simple, normal head hair that's just trailing off, and probably some arm hair and maybe some leg hair. But that's kind of it, You're trying to be like as like reassuring to this person that was cleaning up. Yes, there's no pubic hair at all. It's just my natural hair dripping. I'm just a hair dripper. Yeah, but people that know what pubic hair looks like know what pubic hair looks like, So I guess that's most people, that are at a certain age, right? But it's true, right? Like, it's hard to tell someone this is definitely not pubic hair, and they're like, staring at it, and you can tell that it's like, it got extra. It's like extra, like what's it called, like gritty or something like that, and it's not like so smooth, like straight or whatever, and everything. And you're just like, oh, like it must have been like I probably like curled like my hair that day with a curling iron or something, like trying to make excuses for why this hair is not like the other straight hair that has fallen off my body. Why this one particular patch of hair is extremely similar to something like that we don't like at times to be around, called pubic hair. you know why was that hair not straight like the others if it wasn't pubic hair? Because I was curling. I wasn't really, because I've never done anything like that, but because I must have, like I don't know, like it must have been like, what's it called, like a stray. It was a stray hair. That's why it was like that. It didn't fall in line with the other straight hair. It wasn't a straight hair. It was a stray hair. The truth was, it was pubic hair. It was probably pubic hair. But it's how it is when you're dripping hair. So regarding I Can Walk, I never thought the walk would be so freaking long, and the different places it would take me, and the different sort of experiences, like that were all very, very strange at times. I can definitely tell you, it's been quite an experience. How would I say, like, so yeah, it's been quite an experience, really, like learning about myself, learning about the world, learning about how fucked up people are, you know, and learning about just a lot of negative things more so. But then also at the same time, I didn't think it would be this experience where I've been constantly fighting for my rights and equality for so long. You know what I mean? I just really didn't realize that such fundamental things would be so like fucked up in my life, because of so much exploitation and rights violations for so long, you know? And it's tough. Some days are really, really hard for me. I feel overwhelmed sometimes, and I vent nowadays to that crush, which is why I'm talking about all this stuff now, because it's like, actually, I was out the other day, like trying to get a cigarette off someone, and I was very proud of like venting to this new guy. I was like, he asked me a question, and I was like, I did, like, this stranger who offered me who let me have a cigarette. He asked a little bit, and I did vent a little bit to him. It's very hard for me to have conversations without venting a lot of the things I'm going through, but at the same time, when I spoke to him, I didn't vent to him too much, because I was like, oh, by the way, I found a new person to vent to, because I'm actually quite proud of, like, I'm not proud about it, but it's just kind of like, at that moment I was kind of like, I found someone else to vent to, it's not, I mean, it's everything still freaking sucks, right? But it was really odd to like just mention that in that way, like as if like telling as if at the time, telling that person, like that person, like, don't worry, I know you're giving me a cigarette. I'm not gonna vent completely at you. I'm not gonna stand around here for 5 minutes telling you everything that's fucked up about my life and everything, because there's a guy who has like a little bit of a chat box, like a contact form that like I just fill in and tell him everything, So don't worry, you're good right now, sort of thing, right? Guess that's how I should reassure people when I meet them, that I'm not gonna, like, I mean, it's like not gonna like, I don't know, like, because there's so much, right? But reassure people when I meet them that that I'm not gonna like, spend my whole time around them, like, venting everything, right? Spend my whole time around them, telling them about all the horrors of my world and the world and everything, and how fucked up things are, right? Instead, I spend my time around people being like, "Don't worry, guys, don't worry. There's a chat box. I've been reaching out to these few days. A chat box, you guys. Right? Ugh, that's so sad. I know, so sad in life, right? In that sense, right? But it's been really tough, and okay, so like, yeah, so it's been really odd with a lot of stuff, and even, for example, in Europe, like when I was there, just there's been so many aspects of this I Can Walk that have been so torturous, not just in terms of like, well, yeah, mainly in human rights and equality and all those things, and freedom, and all the things I talk about, justice, but also just something so simple as just like everyday obvious things about me and my life that just I'm baffled about sometimes. Like for example, when I was at the slopes or whatever, I wanted to go après ski one night, right? So I get ready to après ski, like where I'm wearing like black spandex, and then I'm wearing like what's it called, like what's it called, a fur, like brown fur thing, And so I go, like I like look up online where to go, just call a taxi and go, and the guy in the taxi, like or he's the one who tells me where to go, right? And he's like asking me weird questions. He's like, "Oh, do you like girls?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Even if they're like," he'll say like, "Even if they're Spanish girls," and I'm like, "No, I don't like girls." He'll be like, "Even if they're," and he'll pick another race, and I'm like, "No, I don't like girls." So, anyways, it was really strange. So he takes me to this like club or whatever, and I get there, and there's just like two girls there that turned out to be actually like I think they were trying to solicit people, but there was no one else there anyway. Um, so anyway, and I'm so confused. I'm like, how did he not tell I was gay? I literally looked like and was dressed like a freaking dark chocolate strawberry. You know what I mean? Like ready for my après ski as like this dark chocolate strawberry, and he just thinks I'm like gay. I'm like, do straight people dress like this at the time? Like what kind of like I was just very, very like annoyed with this sort of like obviously forced heterosexual sort of climate upon me when like it just clearly was like so like didn't connect with me or what I was or who like how I'm dressed or the whole situation and things like that. It was really, really strange, some of that stuff. And like I'm just looking through this also, like for example, like even like the hotel I was at, all these very like suspicious looks. I don't know if it's because of like I didn't know why they would give me suspicious looks when a lot of these places definitely had many aspects of my life and were connected to it. But I'd always get like suspicious looks, like kind of like, oh, like warning signs, like do not do this, ooh, like it's kind of like, ooh, like it's kind of like take care, like it's very like suspicious kind of like they like look at you like, ooh, like are you sure you'd like the soup? And you're like, oh, should I have said something else? Like, is there something wrong with the soup? Am I going to die from the soup? Oh my god! Like, like they'll be like, oh, like, are you sure you'd like, to make a phone call or not make a phone call, but like, like just like almost like question, like or like even like when I'd like uh had something back to them or whatever, and they'll be like, closing the door at the time, like, have a good night. You know, or like, have a good time at the slope tomorrow. And then they close the door, and you're like just very like suspicious, like sort of thing in your life. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, like what do they mean by that, right? Like, and you get kind of like nervous and things like that, like, so that was like a weird thing. So I also experienced that, for example, like at this one hotel, right? So at the hotel, they have like a swimming area, right? But then they have what's it called? They have I didn't go in this pool, but they have a naked pool, right? And the odd thing about the naked pool, so there's a naked pool, and then this is so weird. I think this is really weird and kind of creepy in general. But anyway, they have this naked pool, and then like behind the naked pool is like what do you call it? Like a sauna. So at the sauna, there's a sauna behind which people go to, and then the view of the sauna is the naked pool, but like half water and a little on top. So people were in the naked pool swimming naked. You're in the sauna just watching a bunch of naked people swim, But there was no one naked when I went to the sauna. There was no one naked when I went to the sauna, you know. But I was just like, that's really strange, And then I come out of there, and this lady kind of does one of those suspicious looks, like, if you're in the sauna, like, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, and I'm like, I'm probably not coming back to the sauna. I came to the mountains. I'm going skiing. I'm just like going skiing. Like, you may not see me tomorrow or whatever, trying to reassure, just my touristy things regarding that. I was like, just using the sauna, you know what I mean? Like, there's no one even in the naked pool or anything, just like, don't like, 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 why is this person so judgy? like so judgmental, you know what I mean? Like, like what was I meant to do? What was I meant to do at the time, right? Like, are you sure you want to go in the sauna? I'm like, like I don't know anymore. Like one of those things. It's like I thought I wanted to go in the sauna, but then like that look makes me really question the sauna. I'm like, oh, is there? You're looking at the sauna; it's completely empty, right? You're just like, okay, like why did they give that look? Or even regarding the soup, right? Afterwards, when I got my soup, you just have the bowl, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like is this going to be okay? And you're just like looking at the soup or something. And you're like, well, it looks like how am I meant to know it's liquid, right? Just have a sip of the soup, and you're like, oh my god, like am I going to be okay? Like you're just like this lasting like beware look that they give you in Europe, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like now like for the next like 5 hours of my day, I'm going to be like on super hyper awareness, like super hyper like kind of like oh my gosh, like like why would they like make me question my decisions right now regarding stuff like why would they give foreboding a foreboding gesture like one of those things like have a good time, have a good time. So if they do that kind of stuff, they're just like have a good time. This one lady kept doing that. That's why I was like, okay, the whole time and stuff like that. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, like what do I do? What do I do? Um. So anyway, that was kind of like a lot of the walking I've been doing, but I wouldn't say. I mean, like yeah, walking. Um. So actually, what this sort of like and actually, like, yeah, it's been a lot of walking when I can walk and things like that. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like usually most of us, like, if there's even like a distance we need to walk to, if we need to walk like for like 10 minutes or whatever, most people do that, right? But if it's like a long, long, long walk, you're on your phone, you're calling your Uber, you're either driving, you're finding transport, to get you to your destination. You know? When you're walking like me, there isn't a lot of transport. There is not a lot of transport. And so I'm just like really stressed out a lot of the time. I'm like, why is it taking so long? And I'm not slow. I am very fast. So I don't understand. But in regards to that, like, um, so anyway, in regards to that, yeah, there was a lot and a lot of, sorry, I know I looked down, I'll fix that later. But anyway, so in regards to that, there was a lot and a lot of just being like, oh my gosh, like I wish like things were more normal. Like I wish like even if I had to walk in life and whatever. I mean, that sounds really stupid. I know we all have to walk a little bit in life, but it's like even if I had to walk in life, I know like at a certain point I should have been able to be like, I need a freaking Uber. I need a freaking transport. Like sort of something to help finish this freaking journey. Because obviously on my own it's been so difficult and so unfair, and I'm still left till now with so many scars. Like even doing this like saying all this stuff now, I wasn't really planning on it, but then like the last few messages I had sent to my like to the guy I'm venting on the chat box, like the last few messages I had sent to him were like really like stressing out about a lot of things that had bothered me today, regarding a lot of the traumatic stimuli I'm going through and stuff. And there's several things that were unjust, right? So then I was like, okay, like in regards to that, like that's why I ended up like for example talking throughout all this, right? But even when I'm thinking about it, like that's the problem. Like I like there's so much that I'm going through. It's so tough. So I'm still have these scars, I still have these bruises. I still have a lot that I'm carrying on me, you know? I'm walking so much, but I'm carrying literally like the emotional baggage plus more sort of traumatic stuff of like many years, of like a century, you could say. You know what I mean? I'm literally carrying like a burden of like things from like I guess they put it on that like friggin' like play, like war, famine, disease, and this. I'm carrying the burden of like I'm so worried that like sometimes, and even like to the point now, I forget, I can't remember who I was telling, and I was like, if they invite me to a party, are they gonna be like, hi, this is my friend Nick Lovely. He's a survivor of like literally like every war metaphorically in like the world, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, you know, I need some water. I need some like water. Actually by the time, hopefully when that time comes, I'm not gonna be like I need water. I'm like, give me a freaking shot. You know what I mean, or something, right? I'm not trying to be a greedy war survivor, but yes, freaking, I want to be a greedy war survivor. You know what I mean? It's not easy to survive wars, and how many of them have I survived? You know what I mean? Like, it's not easy to survive these things on your life that have literally tried to kill me for so long. You know what I mean? And then to sort of be the sort of outcast that where, like, if I was to arrive somewhere finally, it's like, oh, I've arrived, but then also it's like, like, still, like, like forever, I'm gonna have an experience that's gonna, I wouldn't say separate completely, but it's always gonna be different from a lot of people's experiences in this world. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always going to enter a room knowing the many things I've survived. You know, and even to put it in that comedic context of someone being like, meet my friend Nick Lovely, war survivor, and I'd be like, yes, the scars of have hurt me. The scars of the different like things that I've gone through. Not to list them all now. I was going to, the scars. You know what I mean? I'm sure. I mean, I'm a person that heals through art and all this kind of stuff. I know most people like may not talk about certain things in that way, right? But if I don't, like, if I, but it's true for me. It really is, and it's in so many aspects of things. I'll be like here, look, this scar. You have one right there. I have a war scar there. That's not a beauty mark. That's not a beauty mark. I think it's a scar of like things, right? You know what I mean? That's a small one, but I mean, there are other scars. Some of them are gone, some of the bruises are gone, obviously, because that's what heals, my little tinky winky, isn't that a little bit of a war frickin' like what's that called, assault, on my frickin', I'm already trying to like get over that single person entry, and it's like they're still trying to keep me like stuck with that single person entry, trying to bum my balls. You know? Sorry, I said that. Anyway, so that's just one example, but there's more deeper. Most of the scars that people don't realize within this like war I've been going through for so long, most of the scars are internal. They're here, they're here, they're here, they're here. They're more in the body, because there's been so much in life, and especially in regards to the work and life and things that I pursued and everything, and how I've been using just kind of like the different things in my life, where a lot of those, the way I present myself is something I'm still like, I try to present myself despite all the really horrible stuff in a little bit of a better way than sometimes I think most people that than some people could, having if they ever went through what I went through. I think I was even like at like a clinic or something recently, and I was looking over like just I guess my Instagram and stuff, and I was like, you know what? Even if I don't survive, even through all the messed up stuff, even through war, torture, pain, and stuff, at least my Instagram looks almost perfect at the time, just trying to find the most messed up silver lining in this whole situation, where even the other day, I think like a couple of weeks ago, I was like, this has been the worst day ever, or something like that. Like, I was thinking, or what, I was going through a lot, experiencing a lot of stuff like a while back, and then at some point I was like, well, at least I can take a good selfie today. Sometimes a good selfie can turn a bad day into a slightly less bad day, So that was one of the things I encountered, you know what I mean? And then, I have this whole thing, right? And I talk about, like, when I started making this, um, writing this comedy special, actually what had happened was I had gone to a comedy show. I'd gone to a comedy show, and these guys that were performing, some of them were kind of funny and stuff, right? And I was kind of inspired to write something to perform, right? I think what I wrote was probably too long, but anyways, um, I you know, so I wanted to write something to perform at the time, and so and it was one of those weird experiences because, like I said, if I go to the cinema or if I go to, well, the cinema, most of the time I'm been alone, except for recently here again. Now it's like a little bit more back to normal, I guess, because it's like post COVID times and all this stuff. But yeah, and um, but even, like, for example, like at a comedy show or whatever, like proving that I'm like a real person, it's almost as if I have to tell people that, like, I'm actually a real person, I'm I talk a lot, and I have to tell, like, people as a sort of, like, not really, I wouldn't say like a warning, but maybe a little bit of like a, especially if they're sitting next to me at a show, or something like that, some sort of um situation like that. I have to be like, oh, by the way, I talk, like literally announcing I have the ability to speak. Like, I have a sense. I have one of my senses that's working fine. Yes, I can speak. Yes, I talk. I just wanted to make that known to everyone on the row. So, hi, I talk. Hi, I'm Nick. I talk. Just something. What's a call? What's a fun fact about you? What's some crazy trivia about you or something, like, hi, I'm Nick and I talk, you guys. Like, that's my fun fact. Like, I talk. I open my mouth and I, like, say these things that called words, and they, like, come out of my mouth and stuff like that. And you all hear them, but sometimes you pretend you don't. And I don't know if that's very nice, you guys. But just so you all know, I talk, and I don't talk just a little bit. I talk a lot. I love to talk, and you're all sitting next to me, and so I'm just letting you all know. I talk. Hi, Nick. Yeah, that's me. I talk, So it's become this thing now. I have to, like, warn people about a little bit. And I think it's also because, um, I have so much to say, and there's so many things about my life regarding, the exploitation, but then, like, all the torture and also the suffering and also the double speak and my identity and the many aspects of all of this, right? So it's almost as if some people don't want to hear a lot, and some people do like to know more, I think, or like to make more conversation, and some people don't like to make as much conversation. Yeah. So, but that's something I announce to people now. I'm like, hey guys, I don't know them all, any of them, but I'm just like sitting somewhere, like, hi, I talk, I want to carry like a freaking badge or something, be like, like a name, being like Nick. I talk, like, sort of thing. Like, I just need to, like, announce that. I feel like I need to announce that publicly to people. It's such a weird thing to announce. It's as if saying, like, hi, I can. I mean, I know, like, it's a weird thing to announce. It's a weird thing to announce because by saying that you talk, you already are saying that you talk. So it's a bit redundant. It is a little bit redundant, but I'm definitely often like that. I'm like, hi, I'm Nick. I just, so you know, I talk. Just, so it's kind of like, also, like, kind of like a sort of armor on myself. So in case anyone complains that I'm talking too much or too loudly or anything like that, I'm like, I told you I talk. You know what I mean? Like, I warned you. I gave you, like, that fine print that I talk, which shouldn't even need to be fine print, but whatever, I gave you that verbally, and I told you I talk. So it is this kind of armor on myself at times, because it's like, if someone complains, I'm like, okay, fine. I see your complaint. I'm listening to your complaint or whatever, but I had told you that I talk. You know what I mean? Like, just letting you know, maybe I won't talk to you so much anymore, but I talk, just so you know, So it's getting the cats out of the bag, like, guys, I talk, like, oh, and how liberating it was to say that I talk, like, almost like it was like a breath of, like new air, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh my god, everyone, I talk. Like, I just, like, came out of, like, a womb or something or anything like that. I'm like, you're people. I'm also a person, you guys, and I can also speak just like you guys, but maybe a little bit more. Like, next time I should be like, not just a talker. I am an advanced talker. You know what I mean? Like, give them like the little stages of what level of talk I can talk, right? Like I can talk the talk. I can walk. Was that the plan? I can walk and I can talk. Was that the plan? I don't know all of the plan, right? But yeah, so, in regards to I Can Walk, right? I Can Walk taught me about a lot of different places in life, right? It taught me about like places where I fit in a little bit better at, which I don't. It taught me about the reasons I had been running about from things of the past for so long, which were so justified. It taught me about my own fight for human rights from the beginning. And it also taught me about how, like, I would say, like, how, like, Jewish people, have that sort of birthright in regards to, like, Israel, like, it kind of taught me like, oh well, my birthright's kind of California. But so there was a lot of that it did teach me. It taught me like how awful, for example, like the UK was. That was my first time ever living there, and while there was some good food, it was like I did find a space. Like when I first got there, I started speaking. I made my difficult conversation. I acted on stage. There was moments I was trying to actively, make my life or whatever, and it did teach me a lot about the things I have always been capable of since a young age, and also in that show me very clearly, which is which I always knew, but regarding my human rights violations and how deep it been entrenched and for how long it had been entrenched. And that was very hard, sometimes overwhelming and painful in so many ways till now. Till now, where even like to my little venting chat box boy, right? I'm always like, one thing I was like, some days I just wish like, to just be with someone and like, in the sense where like just that would make my problems feel less and just like not think about the world for a little bit. And all of that, right? And it's just kind of like, because every day there's some aspect to it that is reminding me of a lot of the trauma. And it's I don't know, and when I think about it, I'm like thinking about the aspects that remind me of whatever trauma and stuff. But I'm like, these aspects, some of these people or whatever or places, some of them have like also moved on in their life. Some of them haven't. Like people have been able to continue this journey of life or whatever. Well, I'm still literally battling for the human rights I should have had how many years ago, and my life and everything, while also fighting in regards to like so much that has happened since the beginning till now. And it's really, really tough. And there were times, yeah, like I say this thing where, like, there were aspects of, for example, how like, like would I have gone to the UK sooner? I definitely should have felt like I should have left Asia much younger and gone to the UK. But in the end, regarding a lot of it, like I was tortured within many aspects of those systems there in both places. So that, I mean, like, it's almost like a lesser of two evils at the time, right? Regarding that. And it did teach me very, very essentially where my life was for how many years, even where I knew it, but in many things, like, in regards to California, it did teach me things such as like when it comes to my own dignity and my own self-respect and what I deserve and all these things. Walking taught me how much that is how the value of myself and the value of my importance, because the things that I had to walking towards freedom, walking towards human rights, walking towards the end of torture, walking towards all these things I need to survive, and in doing that, also walking away from many toxic things of the past, including ex-family, walking away from certain places and people and things like that most people, if they had a normal life, it's not like you'd have to walk completely away from some really tough, like really difficult things like that. But it became this thing for me where it's like my fight for human rights and freedom did essentially mean losing a lot of things in life that brought, like, I would say, like, that were horrible in my life, that I was a bit scared to walk. I mean, I had walked away from that, but was kept tied through things like coercion and horrible things. But it's like to walk away from all that because what I needed to survive was more important than whatever system of really messed up things they were keeping me under. You know what I mean? So that's a lot of things regarding what I Can Walk taught me. And being independent in any city, like I can, I've lived in various places around the world, so like wherever I go, I can find some sort of things to do independently, and obviously it's much easier when you have some finance, but I've spent so much time in this modern slavery that slowly, I went through so much economic abuse and this and that, that what happened was I end up completely with so little in life because there was nothing in my life to sustain me or my life, everything, even if there was a moment where it looked even on my Instagram as something fancy or whatever, like skiing or whatever. There's so many aspects during that stuff where there was a lot of aspects of abuse in different ways, or a lot of things regarding how I was getting by on a daily basis that were not fair. There were lots of things that were unjust, and a lot of things that daily for a long time, which and the accumulation that is constant undermining, constant inability to uh, to live in dignity, live in dignity and respect, right? So that was a lot of things I learned when I Can Walk, and eventually, in regards to a lot of that, it was so easily going to be like, like even in regards to like coming back to the States, like each time being attacked and attacked and attacked, you know, it's been really tough. It's very tough to walk around where literally my survival at times depends on like how I respond to this very unfair world of situations around me, and it's not fair because it makes my response. I have to respond to things that wouldn't be put on me if it was like someone else. You know what I mean? And it's like there's not one day that goes by that it's not difficult. You know what I mean? You can ask, my chat box crush. I don't think there's one day that goes by where it's difficult or anything. I don't even know if my chat box crush is gay. But anyway, so yeah, but I did learn some things, like what I mean, like when I was traveling a lot, like for example, like London has a cool sense of style and everything, but I realized even like in a place like over there, like they have like the shops with like cool clothes, but no one really wears cool clothes. They all dress like the same. They all dress really boring and everything. Everyone here in LA kind of dresses kind of cool, even though it's not the same type of like sort of like type of fashion in that sense or anything. You know what I mean? And it was just one of these things where it was like, um, but yeah, like like I also figured out like my wardrobe color palette, or lack of, lack of wardrobe color palette. I realized like, oh my god, like everything I have is kind of simple because I really tried to like, I really like sort of more of a sophisticated style and just kind of evolving with that. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, like I want things with color and other things, and stuff like that. But it's like I can't afford clothes. I really cannot afford clothes anymore, and even things like I bought like one like formal outfit because I'd never bought one in my life, like since I was like, what's it called, like 20 21 22, and I'm like 39 now, so I did that. And it was just kind of like, I'd go out and stuff and I'd try to meet people or anything, and just nothing would ever it just was kind of like very like wasted time. It was just kind of like procrastination. The constant endless vacation that began when this began, almost 2 decades ago, like this constant endless vacation that I tried to fight for so long by working really hard. That's how I sort of countered it at times, thinking I would get free from it, right? But it didn't happen. And even in London, when there was a certain point, I felt, I think around November or December, I felt just very defeated and everything, and I just kind of gave up, with life a little bit for a while then. Um, so I'm very tired of this weird freaking exodus, This exodus is a freaking like you know what I mean? Like, this exodus I've had enough of the exodus, you know? Let's be honest now. I have had enough of the exodus, you know? That's just how it is, right? You know what I mean? I need like, I don't know all the biblical books, but I need like a Genesis or something like that. Or maybe not a Genesis. I need a freaking like what are the other books? Like, what's the last one? What's the last one, right? Whatever the last book is, I need a finale. You know, I need a finale, right? I need that last page of this fucking one. How many nights in the desert? Of whatever, right? I need that last page. Done. Over. You know. Tired of the Exodus, you guys. This is the worst Exodus ever. I mean, like, I haven't been through the actual biblical Exodus, like, back in, like, whatever BC days those were. But, like, this is a really fucking bad Exodus. This is a really stressful Exodus. I am so upset with the Exodus. If I had my rights, my lawyer would deal with whoever, like God. My lawyer will deal with God regarding this Exodus abuse. It's true. If I had my rights, I would send my lawyer to deal with God regarding this Exodus abuse. But I don't have a lawyer, So yeah. So during this sort of, I would say, like, how I'm so tired of this Exodus, right? Because there's nothing to do, There's only a certain amount of simple salads you can make during the Exodus. It's for me, right? There's only a certain amount of times you can really just make, well, I can eat this. I love this salad, to be honest, but just cucumber and lettuce and olive oil and lemon juice and, like, maybe some carrots and maybe some tomatoes if it's a lucky day. But it's like, apart from that, like, there's only so many salads you can make during this Exodus. And I'm very tired of my bistro salad, But I love it, but I'm tired of it, And, I like, even like in regards to like this sort of like defeat, how life feels so defeated, how everything's like, how long it's gone on for, and how there's been so little hope in everything. Like, everything becomes like an hourglass to, like, life. Like, literally, if I have, like, an expensive, like, what's it called, like a skincare serum, I'm, like, using it whatever, however often, and I'm looking at it every day, so precious, as if it was the hourglass to my life. And I'm like, oh my god, there's only 3 drops left of this youth serum, and then I'm going to age every day unless I get my freedom. It's really that scary, you guys. You know what I mean? It's like the hourglass to like life, or like literally, like, my serum is like the equivalent of, like, like what's it called, like the rose, as if it was like immigration and like Beauty and the Beast and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And there were only certain amount of, like, expensive serums. Well, now I can't afford any, but back then, like, there was only a certain amount of expensive serums I could afford, right? So, so you do get worried. You get worried. Well, this is back in London. You get so worried. Like, I'm like, what happens when I get to the last drop of my serum and the embassy has not called? You know what I mean? That is such a fear. That is a legit fear. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my god, like, what happens if I get to the last drop of my freaking anti-aging serum and the embassy hasn't called because I can't get any more? You know what I mean? Like, oh my god, like, that's stress. How am I going to resupply my serums? It's a legit stress, How am I going to resupply my serums? Anyway. Okay, you guys, so I Can Walk taught me a few things, definitely, like, and one of the things I think is, like, I Can Walk sort of made me autistic, and I know that's a very touchy thing sometimes. It's like, are you gonna, like, don't, maybe not bring that up so much, but no, it's fine, I think, it's just kind of like, I learned, I was not sort of, I didn't have a lot of knowledge regarding, that's the people on the spectrum so much, and I'm sure I'm a little bit also, but after I Can Walk, yeah, I'm a little bit autistic now, I became sort of knowledgeable that some people that are like autistic can lack some self-awareness, and I think throughout my journey of I Can Walk, at times I've been very much like in fighting for my rights and fighting for my thing, also while going through being exploited so much, being very vulnerable, being very isolated, being really like why is the world so fucked up in this situation and all this kind of stuff, where I become less aware of people's manipulative, like, responses to me. You know what I mean? because I'm so like just I'm so like concerned regarding just my freedom, my rights, and everything, and just there's so many aspects that are negative and damaging to me. I become less aware of people's negative responses sometimes. So when, for example, I'm like, oh my gosh, like like I become less aware of myself a little, not really less aware of myself, but like less aware of things that I wouldn't be otherwise. Like I gave a blowjob once without reciprocation. You know, that's like I don't think that's very heard of. Towards especially if you're a guy. You know what I mean? But I gave a blowjob without reciprocation. And it's kind of like becoming a little bit less self-aware than I used to be. It's kind of like, oh my god, is that a dick? Oh gee, yeah, okay, got it. Like sort of thing. Like um that's just kind of like some weird aspects of like I can walk and how it's made me a little bit like autistic, I guess, right? But it's people are gonna hear this and they're gonna be like, I think you meant slutty, and I'm like, no, no, because it wasn't really particular, to that, and there was many, many, many dry years during I Can Walk, actually, but I will say, for example, like it, like but yeah, was that the plan for I Can Walk and to become a little bit autistic? No, that was not the plan, obviously. And in regards to I Can Walk, it was really also like I can walk, I can stress. It really was another word for saying I can stress. I can walk in a lot of fear, and I can get really pissed off because of being abused and exploited or whatever. I can walk not sure what the hell the plan or purpose of anything is anymore. Um, so yeah, there's many things. Like I can walk when I need a ride. I can walk with the help of Google Maps. I can walk without the help of Google Maps. I just may not know where I'm going. You know what I mean? Like I can walk with a regenerative penis, right? You know what I mean? Like no, do not. I don't want to test the waters on that for you guys. I really don't. Um, you know. Um, and they didn't list that, by the way. They didn't list that in the Marvel Jedi Witch Handbook or whatever. They weren't like this. They just never mentioned it. Never mentioned it. You just kind of like happened, and I was like, damn it, should not have written that script at the time. Well, not that I shouldn't have written it, but it was kind of like, what the hell, like I was really annoyed. Um, so I don't know, like I guess like in regards to a lot of that, there was a lot of things in regards to I can walk. I can walk in the city. I can walk in the mountain. I can walk. I can run also. You know what I mean? Like I can quit smoking. I can do this. I can be healthy. I can be not so healthy. I can go drinking. I can not go drinking. You know what I mean? Um, you know what I mean? Like I think it was like, was that the plan? Do I regret it? Do I regret it? Like, I can walk, I can do this, that, blah, blah, blah. Do I regret it? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, definitely not. And maybe that is the autistic part in me. Because I definitely should have regret walking a long time ago, And I should have just, what I'm saying, I'm talking about I can walk. This was based off when I left LA in 2022 in regards to that, when I should have never done that. Um, but it really did push me towards not seeking perfection. Even though I do realize there's a little bit of hypocrisy at times when I'm like, guys, the day sucks, but like, look at my cute selfie. You know what I mean? Like it's like the one like I know, and or like look at this, like you know what I mean? I understand like many things I do are still part of that like sort of perfection image, but it's really not perfect at all. There's so much imperfection, which everyone knows, which is actually part of the awkwardness. It's like I am a walking like awkward like satellite at this point. You know what I mean? I'm like an awkward walk. I don't walk awkward, but I like sort of like I can walk, giving out like making people feel a little bit awkward, because I can walk and I can talk, and while there's that image of perfection, sometimes there's really behind that a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot of trauma and torture and really, really horrible things. Um, so regarding that, and it made me really passionate about some things I need in life, things I didn't even like things I didn't focus on so much. I mean, like even throughout my art, which has always been a metaphor for me fighting for my rights, my freedom, and everything. I think during this process, I can walk. I learned the right words, for certain things, and it really made me more passionate and stronger in regards to like civil rights and these really important fundamental things in life that I think a lot of time people, you know, what's it called? Like they take advantage of, or they sort of like underestimate the necessity, or they don't realize, or even it taught me how much more I need those things at the same time, as I had said, because of how much I lost in life. And that was not even considered, it was like, that wasn't even like, I wouldn't second guess, I wouldn't second decide to not lose all that, because my freedom and my human rights are more important. Do you know what I mean? Like even like things that people were like, oh, but it's like things in like relations and things like that in life where people would not be as so quick to like to leave behind and things like that. I'm like, no, 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 I've been trying to leave behind all that for a long time. And for me it's like, I think it taught me a lot about such the fundamental necessity of those things, because of how fucked up my world has been because of the violation of my rights, the torture, the lack of justice, the suffering, and all these huge things, including where I like my the representation of myself within my work and my life and how that's exploited. That was very important. Like regarding a lot of things, the gaslighting I experienced for so long. The lack of proper credit and respect I deserved for so long, So, that those are things that have been causing extreme suffering since they began, including the gaslighting. The day the gaslighting began collectively on Facebook, I remember everything. Since that began, literally, it's been a lot of years of torture. Even if not said at times, or definitely said at times, it really has. And people know this. People know this from the beginning. Um, so in regards to a lot of that, there were many things that had to learn regarding like I can walk, and it had to be like not learn, but learn the right way, the right words maybe sometimes, or just even in regards to that, like there were aspects of like showing. I didn't even think I had to do this, but it almost felt like I had to show that I was like capable of myself, in a way that I had been undermined, and all these horrible things people had said or faked or did horrible things regarding me for so long, which is really, really also unfair, I had to be like, guys, yeah, I also care about human rights, not just magic, So yeah, yeah, that's kind of like I can, you know. Um, Okay, so I'm talking a little bit from this now, but it's okay. It also taught me, by the way, how to be more polite. Just so you know, everyone knows I've lost my temper a few times, which makes total sense. It makes total sense, especially when you're being gaslit and how like the amount of damage that they do to me, right? But like you see like people on the street, right? You see people on the street, and they're doing this intentional like boogeyman, like nose rub, or like I remember I was sitting on like by like a cafe by a beach, and one person like does like the mouth boogeyman gesture. So they're doing these gestures that are very intentional, right? Right. And it happens so often around me, like I'm walking on the street, like how many times doing boogeyman gestures, like I it's so often it happens, right? And I'm just it just kind of like so I started walking around with a lot of tissue, a lot of tissue, because this is I don't know how to respond to this at times, so try to be polite, like they're doing these boogeyman gestures. I'm like, oh, do you need a tissue? Sort of thing. Sometimes they're like caught off guard, I'm like, I think you need a tissue. He's like, no, we don't need a tissue. I'm like, you just did a boogeyman gesture. Are you sure you don't want a tissue at this point? You know? Um, so it's just one of those things. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I had like a superpower at this point, it would be like walking around being like, dispense, and like a tissue comes out of my like sleeve or something like that, Like, I guess that would be the word I would use, like dispense, and hand out tissues and, things like that, right? Like if that was a job where I could get paid and stuff like that, right? And I guess like the Jedi Council would be like, he was once Lucas, and now he's with the mucus, right? You know what I mean? Right? Like used to be all like, like super like what's it called? Like really like active with my arts and everything, and like all the things I used to do, and now I'm just like dispense tissue, right? Like to like like gathering all the mucus up together, putting tissues in my pocket and things like that, like this is too much mucus. Too much mucus. I'm here to clean up the mucus. I'm here to wipe your mucus. I shouldn't say that. Right? But it's like, oh my gosh, right? It's like so much freaking mucus. Who knew then COVID also and everything was going to be like, while all that happened, literally at the end of it, it's going to enter this world, and everywhere I look, there's fucking mucus. You know what I mean? It's true, right? Who knew that was gonna be like was gonna be like that? Like literally after I just get out of a little bit of like the controlled environment or whatever, just really approach the world and they're like, oh my god, there's mucus there's mucus everywhere. I'm sorry I'm swearing a lot. It's very stressful, at least with my times. There's mucus everywhere. You know what I mean? It's like I have to admit it, like as someone who has contributed to so much mucus in the world. I should say like contribute in the sense where I've been exploited. Exploited. It's like taken so much of me, and there's all this mucus in the world, right? But as someone who's part of so much of that, like, is that like, in this ironic way, it's like now the schnoz makes sense, doesn't it? Right? Now the schnoz makes sense. Anyway, right? So let's see what else. So some days are really, really difficult during this I can walk free. And this is what I wrote. Like some days are difficult during this I can walk free. Every day leaving my house is almost like a small adventure, but I didn't mean that in a positive way, because every single interaction is inauthentic. And I'm always like, I'm always disappointed and I don't want to go anywhere. Sometimes I don't want to deal with people, because everyone messes with me, So I wrote this in London then. And that, can you imagine from then? And these are feelings I have echoed so many times in emails, in texts, in every single type of way I can communicate a lot of time to many, 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 many people, So you can understand, I hope you can understand how long this trauma and frustration and struggle has been in me, right? You know what I mean? So it becomes one of these things where, like, for example, like how I can taught me a valuable lesson, which is like, like you can walk to like the highest peaks of the world. You can fight for your rights, your equality, your justice, your freedom. Do you know what I mean? Like you can walk away from abusive people, which is what I have done. I've walked away not just from people, certain abusive governments. That's very scary. I never it's scary in life to do that sort of thing, especially as someone whose work in life has been part of so much freaking mucus. You know what I mean? Especially as someone who's like I have such a public schnoz, but other parts about me, obviously as a public figure and everything, but there's so much like, as it's hard, it's very hard, and doing all this alone, doing all of this alone for so long, so it's been one of those things where it's like, I walked away from so much and I was running. I talk about I can walk a lot, like walking away from something. It's hard to walk away from certain things. That's why you walk sometimes. It's hard to walk away from some things, it's sometimes hard. But that act of walking away from that stuff was my act of starting to run towards my freedom, run towards my human rights, and I was running until, my little tinky winky got a little bit of a, I don't know, what's it called? A little bit of a, again, whatever, right? So yeah, so it's like, it's one of these things where it's like, and I was thinking about that. I was like, walking and everything, and then suddenly this thing's happened, and I'm like, no, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's, yeah, it has slowed down my walk a little bit, right? Definitely, because I was like, okay, to fix this again, let's see what happens now, I mean, everything will be fine, right? I hope, but like running towards better places in life, better everything, and maybe that run towards better places and everything, like I'm not here now and stuff. Yeah, it's like, nothing's like still got a little bit injured and being like, okay, You know, you got this Tinky Winky. You know, you regenerated once. You know, you can do it again. You know, actually, it's regenerated more than once. You know, but it's always I'm still like, oh, you know, if I only didn't write that one script, you know, and now I have to avoid certain situations. You know, be very careful of my drinks and everything. But it's like, oh, the amount of times it's like to be extra cautious and then realize, oh wait, like I can't let my guard down completely yet. You know, that's the thing about I Can Walk. It's such an exposed freaking like thing, you know, with regards to so much stuff that like, you know, there are moments you're like, okay, this is a moment to breathe or whatever, and then you realize like, wait a minute, like, you know, I still have to have my guard up a little bit, you know, still just can't like, you know, like like expose myself to even more stuff that could, you know, hinder aspects of my walk, right? You know, and stuff like that, right? And things I am running for. Things I am running for, as if I'm running for mayor or like some sort of like electoral thing, right? So here is my little list of things I am running for, running towards, you know, obviously, as I have said, human rights, equality, rights, justice, and all that, but also, you know, a more peaceful life with better people, you guys, running towards better places and better things, better food, yes, you know, better food, better sex, you know, better jobs in terms of my life and what I do, you know, a better post office. Yes, running towards a better post office where I can get my freaking mail, or you know, there's aspects of like, you know, like the things about the post office that I, you know, in regards to before or in life in general, where I can receive freaking messages, you know. You know, if I'm tugging at a dick, I want to get a message as well, don't you? I mean, wouldn't anyone else, right? Anyway, and I want people to realize that running away is not cowardly unless someone is chasing you with a large axe. Then yes, it is very cowardly to run away. I mean, no, sorry, that's also not cowardly, but you know, I'm sorry, it's not cowardly, but yes, yeah, that is cowardly. I mean, you should be a coward when someone chases you with a large axe. So of course you should be a coward. You should be like, run, run. You know what I mean? Like, it's really tough, you know? Like, I mean, we've all seen Scream. We've all seen like we've all seen like these horror movies, and you don't even need to see a horror movie. That if someone is running like with you with a large axe or whatever, then you probably should like be like take that as a sign. Like, yes, I should be afraid of that, and I should just run in this direction or whatever. You know what I mean? Um, you know, axe or no axe, you guys. People have their reasons when they need to get away, right? And we use that word away when we're starting to telling ourselves sometimes what we're running towards. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you know, like we use that as an excuse sometimes, right? So we say like, you know, like people may be like, oh, running away from this or that. No, it's about what you're running towards, you know? People run away from something scary like the axe murderer because they want to run towards safety, right? For example, right? But people don't, you know what I mean? So we have to look at it in a different way sometimes, right? So I Can Walk taught me like not what I was running away from, more so. I mean, yes, that, but also, I mean, that I always knew, but it was also like how desperate I was for the things that I needed to run towards because they were literally fundamental to my survival. Literally fundamental to me having my future and my rights and my just every aspect of life and everything, you know? So yeah. Most of us don't like to walk without okay. Okay, you guys, so I Can Walk in general, right? You know, most of us don't like to walk if we don't have a plan. Sometimes we don't have the luxury or time or ways to form a plan. Sometimes there just isn't time to make a plan. There isn't the resources or anything. And in regards to me, there have been many plans, but then there have been also many, many messed up situations where I've been attacked, where there's been violations of my rights to such a large amount, right? So, in regards to a lot of that, right? Like we all have our different reasons for walks, right? Some of us just want to walk the freaking dog, right? That's just your reason to walk because you have a dog and you need to walk the dog. Consider yourself very lucky in life. you know? I mean, like what could go wrong on a freaking dog walk, really, right? All you're really doing is walking the dog, picking up a little bit of poop, you know? There's the dog may pee or whatever or something, and then you're saying hi to the other people walking their dog, and then you're taking your dog back home, Some people just have to walk the dog, right? Some people don't, so other people have to walk in this very, very aggressive, horrible journey of life like I'm going through, Um, and what I've learned also is that, we aren't giving up when we walk in these ways. We aren't giving up on life, So that's the thing I hate about being undermined in ways. The respect in regards to things. I'm not giving up on life. I'm standing up for my life, you know? The way to look at the directions we take in life sometimes as a sort of running away direction, as I said earlier, as opposed to the what it is actually meaning, what it's standing for. You know what I mean? Like I can walk, I'm not giving up on the things I deserve. I'm walking to get the things I deserve. I'm walking to get my life. I'm walking to get the things I want and deserve for so long. Um, and it's so hard to because it's like it's most people are like have their human rights their whole life, and it's so especially a lot of people that go to like private school in America and stuff like that, right? So then it's like for me it's like this very isolatory and everything journey because it's like within like a system where so many people around have their human rights, I've had mine violated for so long, um right? So then I just remember that all the time, um our walk and everything, and it's hard because we get to a journey, we get to a destination or whatever, we don't know exactly well how it's going to be or anything, and there's many things it's like it's tough because even like it's very difficult because even if I'm lost, right, even if I'm in the wrong part of town or I'm lost or something, it's like with me how my work in life has also affected government and large things, right? You don't even know how many days I've been like expecting, like how many days I've been like expecting some like US helicopter to like fly by and like SWAT to come down and be like, we're here, we're here to save you and everything, or even just like the CIA to like sit down with me and be like, okay, we will explain everything now. You're going to be and then help me with my rights and freedom and everything, you know what I mean? Like just whatever agencies like just sit with me and solve all my problems, right? I've been waiting for that day for a really long time, so it's tough regarding this I can walk thing. It really is, right? um it doesn't mean no one's coming to save you. It just means like it just means like it depends on the situation, I think, in regards to stuff, right? But it's kind of like I can walk taught me about all the compliments I should have had my whole life that I never got, you know so when like I can walk has taught me like how many times people should have said, oh, you look cute, that's so amazing, oh, you're so talented, oh, you're so smart, oh, you're like just like cool fun compliments. I mean, like, okay, those are really really boring compliments. I'm so sorry, like those are really really boring compliments. Like I would expect, I would expect someone to come up with some interesting, awesome compliments towards me. You know what I mean? Like I love what you did with like when you did this or that. I think you have like the lips of a very like a very a very nice pillow or something like that. You know what I mean? Like luscious and what's it called? Plump. Your lips as plump as a pillow or something like that. I was expecting some really great compliments, right, in life, but I did not get any, right? So I can talk to me about all the things that were really good about me in my life that I should have been complimented on, also that I was never allowed to get compliments and many things about. Um, right? But and I just realized, I gave some lame compliments there, being like, "Oh, you're so cute," whatever. Like that's kind of a lame compliment, but it's like when I wrote this, I wasn't like I was just kind of like they should have said I was cute, I know it's really amateur, but it's like that's just like a one example, right? Um, but yeah, but also like I also expected during I Can Walk a ton of apologies, and since I've written this, I do get more of them now. but then they're always in the situations where I'm like, it's not enough. This is the thing. I wrote this, and then the response to this, became this sort of weird thing where people were responding it as if it was just like things I'm like, oh, I should have gotten more apologies, and then they were being very literal about it, but not honest and not deep or meaningful regarding that. Very like superficial about it, and very like it's like it's like I say it on the special or whatever, but it's like I expected way more than just apologies, you guys. But like I still do, obviously, but it's like in regards to apologies, seriously, it's like it would be like Pandora's box opening up. The amount of apologies I freaking deserve at this point. Like seriously, like the amount of apologies, literally Pandora's box opening up. Like would that be like almost like a thing of jeopardy? Like would that be what's it called? Burning body parts for like $100? What's it called? Waking up to a pool of blood for $300? Modern slavery for $400? Right? Like that's just kind of what like this kind of situation is like, right? Anyway, oh my god, I said the whole special. You guys. I can't believe I did that. I know at the end I started looking over it a little bit, right? But anyway, I'm so glad I made this sort of like I Can Walk special, and I sort of said it, even though I've been putting it on hold for a really, really long time, and if any of you guys want to ask me about anything I've said in regards to any of this stuff, around town or anything, and I know there are restrictions or whatever, but feel free to ask me questions. Feel free to AMA question me, like regarding that stuff, because I love to talk about it, and I know people want to hear stuff from me, because it's interesting, even though there's a lot of messed up stuff, it really is interesting, especially if you are someone like, gonna give myself a compliment now, like if you are like an interesting speaker like I am, but just even beyond that, like just like it's one of those things where we like it's regarding like I Can Walk, like right, it's been like it's as you can tell, and if any of you have seen me around town now, you can see like how how what's it called, difficult it's been, and through so many levels of injustice that I've endured, right? Anyways, you guys, I'm gonna have to like post this now. It's gonna might take a while, I know I was saying like 5 minutes or something max per like section of the comedy, but then I end up speaking a lot more in certain sections, and then I end up talking a lot more about this and that, and right, and it was just kind of like I hadn't even read my document in I guess I hadn't read it like a few months or whatever, but but I I actually literally wrote it like all January 2025, so it's been like a long time, January 25, so it's been a long time, so it's like in regards to this, it's like finally got to say it, Obviously, I wanted to say this on like a stage, right? I wanted to say this on a stage. Actually, that's what I was waiting. That's why I didn't perform it for so long. Also, I didn't want to put it on Instagram at first. I wanted to like say it, like memorize it, and then say it as like a Netflix special, or just like on a stage, perform and everything, or test out bits of it like live with people to see if they laugh or not, because I really haven't had much of many chances like that, um so yeah, but anyway, I don't know what's happening in life. I don't know how long I'll have like places that are that allow me to just like do a little bit of my artistic stuff and everything, because nothing is very stable in my life right now apart from literally like me, you know but like everything else, like it's all very, very difficult, that's why I have really fell in love with confiding in my chat box crush, right? I really have fallen in love with my I'm sorry, with confiding in my chat box crush, right? So, but also like I wanted to like I said, I wanted to show that I'm I didn't want this person to just judge me by all these freaking, even though they've pretty known my life for so long, right? They also went to school in Boston, but I didn't want them to judge me for like just the messages, because it becomes this thing in life where people have so easily overly judged me and found things I've just written to hurt me, even when there was nothing to hurt me about really regarding something I've written, or they would just purposely like be very malicious and horrible about stuff, you know? So I get very nervous about that. But also, I'm still isolated, I'm still in a position, you know, and I really like this person, you know? Even though I've never hung out with them, you know, I actually like was even talking about that the other day. I was like, you know, they've known me for so long. I don't even know what their personality is like, you know? I mean, I know of them, but that's it. And also in regards to thing, I was even thinking things like, you know, like just kind of like how I've like over like I really like like done like what's it called? Like I've just kind of like I was telling someone who just helped me just for a short moment, you know, you know, an old coworker, you know, this guy called Mike and everything, you know, and I was like telling him at the time, I was like, you know, like, just about how much it's been this journey is so much of this has been so difficult, you know, and it is hard because even like you know people like even someone may help me or you know be kind to me for a moment, they're still either they're limited or they just don't want to be honest with me, you know, there's still a lot of gaslighting involved, you know, a lot of like just even like questioning me again and I'd be like I talked about that, I said that already, you know, a lot of stuff. But anyway, in regards to like my chat box crush, you know, I know, see, just in regards to that, it was just kind of like I wanted to put this video together because I wanted to sort of not be defined just by I wanted to not just for that one person, to be honest, for all of you, you know, for everyone out there. I mean, obviously, the whole time I'm speaking throughout this, whatever, these like 40 minutes or whatever, I mentioned you guys and everything, and it's a lot of people. I'm saying like all of you, you know, and I'm just like I want people to sort of, um, you know, understand the complexities with me and how this whole situation is in a sense, you know, aspects of it, and how much I'm still trying to persevere, you know? I shouldn't have to say that. Like, I shouldn't have to say that so much. Like, I'm trying to persevere, you know? Like, maybe I should say that like when I'm on the ground. Like I'm trying to persevere, you guys. You know? I'm trying to persevere. You know? Just trying to persevere. You know? And then, yeah, persevere. Mm-hmm. Persevere. But yeah, like you know, like I'm just kind of like I want to show you this stuff because these are things I want to do in life, you know, constantly perform and everything. And when I get these sort of like, I think I get these sort of like sort of hidden sort of sometimes like um, innuendos from places and people that I've left for good that are very much implying for a long time like any sort of lack or desire, any sort of like care for me to do any of the things I'm good at, you know, in regards to the arts or anything like that, you know, and to be overly critical or undermining or define what I can and can't do. I'm like, hello, please. I'm 39. I'm very, like, I can do what I should be allowed the rights to do what I want and just work at that, you know? And so and there's lots of things, right? Although also this is a stage of life I would have to say where things are tough and are tough and difficult in the sense where you know I've been through so much exploitation, I've been through so much damage and all this stuff. I can't just like go through life in a sense where it's just like, oh, just starting at the bottom or anything like that. That's ridiculous. That's I can't do it. It's impossible because what I've been through and in regards to just beyond just the exploitation, the damage and abuse and everything, my justice and peace already means like starting as much, not just like how just not like a sort of like very like spot where it's like not what's it called, representative of how my work in life have been exploited for how many almost 2 decades, you know. um so yeah, so I thought tonight, you know, I wasn't able to get to a screening today because I didn't have a way of getting there, but I thought I'd do this, you know, this talk. You know, I'm sure I could I could have like condensed it in bits so that like the funnier stuff would have been more of that, and then the less funny stuff, well, could have like sort of like solidified the more of the talk, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, so um I hope you like my little like what's it called? I can walk, you know? I can walk. Was that the plan? I can walk. Was that the plan? I wrote this actually. I'm just gonna add this now. I'm definitely like I finished. I finished talking about everything on this. By the way, I finished talking about that. But I'm just want to tell you in general when I wrote like I can walk, it wasn't like I wrote I can walk. Was that the plan? It wasn't something where I wasn't like clueless. I wasn't like, oh, I can walk. Like, was that the plan? Like I was trying to find why things were going on. Like, you know what I mean? Were people trying to push me? It's why certain people had hurt me. The title was more of a reflection of how certain people had hurt me, but it was the content was is based on a lot of the exploitation and torture I endured in different places and stuff like that, right? Um, I mean, I don't talk more about that stuff so much on this piece. That's more I put that in my podcast, I guess. But this was about like experiences during that, right? But the title was like that because I also was going through a lot of like um, when I talked about like I can walk away from the things that were really bad and towards my rights and everything, even within that, I was still processing like having to do that walk. You know what I mean? So I was processing that because of the loss, the grief. I was going through a lot of grief, the loss, the grief, this, that, like the different things, aspects of the isolation and everything, and so there was a lot of hurt inside of me, hurt from not just like mistreatment and abuse, but yeah, aspects of that. There were betrayal at times and really messed up things, and it's not like I feel like I don't feel completely like in life. I don't know if I'll reach a point in life where I'll have, as I put it in one of my podcast episodes, all the social and economic protections and security to really thrive and feel much more safer and better in life. I hopefully I get that once I get all my human rights and everything, right? But still, in regards to that, it was really a reflection of just kind of like, like I can still walk, like I can go, and do all these things, like was that the plan? No, obviously the plan was not to go. No one has the plan that they have to like go through the most fucked up shit in life because it wasn't my plan. My plan was yes, walking. My plan was yes, going for my human rights. My plan was all this. And it was the bad person's plan that forced me to have to do that because it was the bad whatever like aspects of places and people that were that had restricted my rights and everything and tortured me for so long, right? It was those really bad stuff. That was all that really bad stuff that had caused me to be like, okay, I can walk. Is it the plan to walk? Like no, like I said, no one wants to really like walk. I mean, like no one wants to like go through such a journey or anything without a plan, but it's necessary for me to survive. It's necessary for my human rights, it's necessary to literally like persevere, right? And people persevere in different ways. I know that, I've been to different places, right? And I understand that this idea of perseverance, like all the little things that help you persevere sometimes, I talk about a lot of them on the thing, the things from going out at times helped me with my perseverance. The things like making those little salads, like my bistro salad is a freaking miracle persevering like machine, or it's like, like that's a magic freaking bistro salad, like that helps you persevere, definitely. Snow plowing in like the a mountain, like nothing, like down the slope, snow plowing down that slope, that is an act of perseverance. You know what I mean? That is a great act of perseverance, And then when you learn how to snow plow left and snow plow right, you're like, wow, I can persevere to the left and I can persevere to the right, So it's like all these things in this I can walk thing I'm talking about were all about perseverance in different ways, so I think that's what I wanted to say in regards to that, and I think sometimes in regards to the perseverance, if I probably have embarrassed my chat box crush massively at this point, you know. But yeah, but that's okay for now, right? I probably have embarrassed my chat box crush a lot, right? But it's like in regards to that, but that's also an aspect of perseverance, the fact that like my chat box crush, sort of like inspired this like literally within the last like 3 days, like my new my creative like sort of like passions again so much. Like I think that says something about hope, and it says something about um I talked about walking in where you're going, like in terms of the right direction in life and everything, and the things that tell you which is the right direction, the wrong direction, even because when you get to your destination and things like that. And the idea of like my chatbox crush being able to inspire like stuff that I love and everything, like here, and like bring some sort of allow me to sort of find ways to like self heal and stuff. Even though I still have said a lot of angry stuff on Instagram, which you know without justice, there's no way to get peace. But I think that already shows that like I have taken steps and I'm definitely walking in the right direction. Okay, you guys. Have a great weekend.